Chapter 908. The second sword technique was not complicated either. Tang Zheng followed suit, and when the small copper man's movements appeared in his mind, he also followed suit. This time, his consciousness did not leave his brain. He wanted to firmly remember this sword technique, but strangely, his memory became more and more blurry. Not long later, he could not remember how to use this sword technique at all. His entire body stiffened as his arm hung in the air. No matter how he gestured, he felt extremely awkward. He could not find any sense of familiarity at all. He was stunned. This sword move had disappeared from his mind, and it was under the condition that his consciousness was extremely clear. This was not evil, it was simply like seeing a ghost. He scratched his ears and cheeks, unable to think of a reason why. I don't believe it. Let's learn the third move. Tang Zheng thought about it, but the third copper man did not appear in his mind. Instead, his head hurt as if it was being pricked by needles, causing him to temporarily lose his ability to think. After a long while, the pain finally disappeared. His brows were tightly knitted together. Looks like I still can't learn the third move. Even that copper man didn't appear. In fact, when my brain thought about the third move, it actually hurt like hell. This sword technique is really powerful. I'm already at the 9th stage of the Jindan stage, but I can only learn 2 moves. How high would my cultivation be to learn the remaining 3 moves? How high would my cultivation be to learn all 14 moves? His expression darkened. So what if he finished learning it? If he didn't learn it, he would forget about it completely. He temporarily threw the Taiji 2 forms sword technique to the back of his mind and observed this floor to see if there were any other useful things or introductions to this sword technique. However, after searching for a long time, other than these 36 copper men, there was nothing else of value. He subconsciously glanced at the stairs leading to the 6th floor, and a complicated expression flashed across his eyes. In the past, he had always thought that there was a treasure trove on every floor, but now he understood that it was not as simple as a treasure trove. At the same time, there was also a huge hidden danger. Time flew by. His time in the Langya Pavilion was up, and he was forced to leave. He slowly opened his eyes and found that he was still sitting cross-legged on the bed. The faint golden light on his skin had actually disappeared, and his bronze skin was as tough as iron. His heart skipped a beat, and he was pleasantly surprised. Vajra body. The chaotic Vajra spell has actually completed the tempering of the body, reaching the 4th level, Vajra. He touched his own skin, which was even more lustrous than before. He raised the War Soul sword and stabbed himself, but it did not pierce through. Even if the War Soul sword was not activated, it could still cut through hair and cut iron like mud, but it could not hurt his skin. This was the true invulnerability of the Vajra body. Of course, if he activated his innate chi, the power of the War Soul sword would increase greatly, and his Vajra body might not be able to block it. He wasn't bored enough to actually use his own body for such a dangerous experiment. He stood up and stretched his muscles. His bones crackled as if he had been reborn. Young man, your chaotic Vajra spell has actually broken through. Congratulations. The inner demons congratulated him. Chiyu coldly snorted, and said, he is a celestial, cultivating the chaotic Vajra spell is already twice the result with half the effort, what is there to congratulate? The inner demons chuckled, you should congratulate him on his progress. Only you would be so petty. Isn't it just him absorbing a little bit of your blood and sweat? Young man, why don't you continue to absorb a little more energy in one go and break through the Yuanying realm in one go? Inner demons, you're going too far. Chiyu was furious at such provocative words, afraid that Tang Zheng would really do it, and hurriedly advised, Tang Zheng, don't listen to his bewitchment. From the Aurous core to the Yuanying is a very important transition process. This is related to the speed of your cultivation in the future, as well as how far you can go in the future. If the condensed Yuanying is too weak, then you won't be able to do much in the future, and your cultivation will stop at the Yuanying realm. Tang Zheng was not a person who only listened to one side of the story. He remembered that when he was going from the fasting realm to the Aurous core realm, the Empyrean fairy had also said the same thing. The transition between realms was a very important period, and he definitely could not let his guard down. On this point, Chiyu was not lying. Of course, the other party definitely had his own selfish motives, and did not want Tang Zheng to absorb the energy of his heart's blood so recklessly. As for the inner demons, as expected, these two were not easy to deal with. The inner demons were digging a hole for him again. If he rashly broke through to the yuanying stage, the condensed yuanying would definitely not be good, and his future cultivation would naturally not be that high. In this way, the inner demons would have an opportunity to take control of his body. You're really good at scheming. Tang Zheng felt a chill run down his spine, and said unhappily, inner demons, I'll mute you for 3 days as punishment. Ah, what did I do? The inner demons pretended to be at a loss and asked. You know very well what you did. Tang Zheng was too lazy to explain, and directly muted him. No matter how much the inner demons complained, they could not say a word. This is how you should deal with the inner demons. Chiyu also laughed gloatingly. These two were very happy to see the other party suffer. Tang Zheng recalled the various strange aspects of the Taiji Yin-Yang sword technique, and asked, Chiyu, have you heard of the Taiji Yin-Yang sword technique? Chiyu thought for a moment and said, I don't know, there are thousands of techniques in the world, it is impossible for me to know all of them. Tang Zheng's expression darkened, and he did not give up and asked, then do you know what kind of technique will be forgotten immediately after practicing? Forget? Chiyu was confused. The purpose of cultivating a cultivation technique is to remember it firmly. How could I forget? If you really forget, how can you use it in the future? Tang Zheng smiled bitterly, this was also his question. Seeing that Chiyu could not explain, he could only ask the 5-clawed golden dragon to see if the dragon race knew a thing or two. Tang Zheng, just now your consciousness was out of your body, what happened? Chiyu suddenly asked curiously. When Tang Zheng moved in his mind, Chiyu also noticed this clue, but thinking about it, it was not strange, after all, Chiyu and the inner demons were too strong. But even if Tang Zheng's consciousness was out of his body, they would not have been able to seize control of this body at that time. Nothing. Tang Zheng answered perfunctorily. It is the so-called dragon seal of the dragon race. You have entered the Langya Pavilion. In the past, Chiyu had hidden in Tang Zheng's body and already knew a lot of secrets. Tang Zheng's pupils shrank, his whole body became cold, and a faint murderous aura flashed. What is your purpose? Chiyu heard the displeasure and caution in Tang Zheng's tone and hurriedly explained, don't misunderstand, I don't have any purpose, just purely out of curiosity. Even in my time, dragons were an absolutely mysterious existence, so I have an innate curiosity about dragons. Where dragons come from has always been a mystery. Now that the dragon race has left this world, where did they go? I think you also want to know, but now that you control the 5-clawed golden dragon, this question will eventually be answered in the future. Tang Zheng coldly snorted, and bluntly warned, you better not have any bad ideas, your hard work is still in my hands. Of course, why would I make things difficult for myself? I am just purely curious. What kind of existence is the Langya Pavilion? How many treasures are hidden in it? The Taiji Yin-Yang sword technique you mentioned just now, was it found in the Langya Pavilion? Tang Zheng said that he was really smart, but still said coldly, so what if it is? Chiyu sighed. The Langya Pavilion is really unpredictable. With this treasure trove, you might really be able to go further than me in the future. Really, don't you want to control my body? I definitely don't mean that. Chiyu quickly denied. Tang Zheng laughed jokingly, do you really think I will believe you? After that, he ignored Chiyu and directly opened the door and walked out. It was already afternoon, the others had already rested, Lan Yu and Mu Hongyan were busy in the kitchen, the others were sitting together and chatting, or watching TV and playing with their phones, a scene of joy and harmony. When Nana saw Tang Zheng, she flew over, tiptoed, jumped up, and directly hooked her arms around Tang Zheng's neck. Her bell-like laughter was very pleasing to the ear. Nana hugged her and said, Nana, we will go to primary school next semester. This was something that Mu Hongyan had mentioned to him before. After all, Nana had grown up, she still had to integrate into the life of her peers, and even more so, integrate into this society. She could not just cultivate at home. Nana pouted and said, "The other children are so childish. I want to stay at home to accompany my brother and cultivate with my master." Childish? Tang Zheng was stunned for a moment, hearing this word from the mouth of a child. He did not know whether to laugh or cry. "Where did you learn this word from?" Nana proudly raised her head and said, "Nana is so smart, of course it was self-taught." Tang Zheng tapped her pink forehead and said with a smile, "You don't even have a teacher, you really are a little mischievous. When you go to school in the future, you can't bully other students, especially not use magic to scare other students, understand? You have to be a good student. Nana has always been very good. Nan will listen to Big Brother's words and won't casually use magic. This is our family's secret." Nan pointed at everyone, clearly including everyone in this big family. Tang Zheng nodded with gratification. Although Nana was still young, she was smart and quick-witted. There were many things that she could understand. There was no need to be long-winded. Suddenly, Tang Zheng looked towards the door and felt that there was someone outside. As expected, there was a knock on the door. Fang Shusher walked over to open the door. When she opened it, she was surprised to see the person outside and exclaimed, "It's you." "Hello, is Tang Zheng here?" a deep voice asked. Everyone turned their heads to look. When they saw who it was, their eyes widened in surprise. This was actually the chief who often appeared on the television news. There was probably no one in the country who was unfamiliar with him. Chapter 909. Tang Zheng walked over, nodded slightly, and said, "Bureau Chief, please come in." The bureau chief smiled at Tang Zheng, and there seemed to be less arrogance between his brows than before. He looked up at the house and said, "Your house is really not bad." "Thank you." The bureau chief nodded at everyone again. "Hello everyone." Other than Empyrean Fairy and Li Xiaotian, everyone else stood up to respond. These two people knew each other, but they didn't think much of each other. After all, Empyrean Fairy had even seen Qin Shi Huang. Other high officials were no different from ordinary people to him. Li Xiaotian had lost his memory and didn't recognize him at all. He even stared at him curiously. "Everyone, sit down. Don't be so reserved. I'm just here to visit everyone," the bureau chief said in an amiable and dignified manner. Tang Zheng was calm and composed. He gestured to everyone, and everyone sat down. After all, they were born and grew up here, so they subconsciously respected the bureau chief. Tang Zheng had seen it too many times, so he didn't feel anything. Seeing number one following behind the bureau chief, Tang Zheng knew that they weren't just here to take a look. They had a purpose, so he went straight to the point and said, "Let's go in and talk." The bureau chief nodded in understanding. The two entered the study. Number one stayed behind to guard the door, as if he didn't want anyone to come close. Everyone looked curiously at the tightly shut door and started to murmur curiously. Why is he looking for Tang Zheng? Maybe he's here to win over Tang Zheng? No, it must be related to what happened last night. It was such a big commotion. Then will Tang Zheng be in danger? Everyone's hearts tightened as they looked at each other. Yi Dingdang gritted her teeth and said fearlessly, "If he really dares to do anything to Tang Zheng, I won't let it go." "Me too," Fang Shusher hurriedly said as she shared a common enemy. Lu Qingmei said, "Me too," in her heart, but she didn't say anything. A bright light flashed in Wu's eyes. Although he did not say a word, his attitude was already very clear. Princess Anne didn't find it strange and said, "It's not as dangerous as you say. In Europe, it's common for the king's royal family to win over the elites. Besides, Tang Zheng isn't just an elite. He wouldn't dare to easily deal with Tang Zheng. After all, Princess Anne was experienced and knowledgeable." The Empyrean Fairy looked at her approvingly. Although Princess Anne's cultivation was the weakest among them, there was no doubt that she was more knowledgeable than the others. Tang Zheng has been letting her stay at home. Could it be that he's interested in her too? He's really flirtatious. The Empyrean Fairy secretly shook her head. Men were indeed jackals of the same tribe. Since ancient times, no matter if they were emperors, generals, ministers, or commoners, they were all the same. Seeing that the others were skeptical of Anne's words, the Empyrean fairy said lightly, "Don't worry, she's right." The Empyrean fairy's prestige was naturally not comparable to the others. Hearing her say this, everyone's worried hearts were relieved. They asked in surprise, "Really?" "Of course." Everyone was grinning from ear to ear as they looked at the door, trying to guess what was going on inside. Tang Jing poured a cup of water for the bureau chief and sat down facing him. He asked, "Bureau chief, why are you looking for me in such a hurry?" He had already guessed it. It was probably the matter of the 5-clawed golden dragon. He was just asking the obvious. "Last night, thanks to your help, we were able to defeat the 100 Change Star Lord and kill that Yamada no Orochi. I'm here to thank you," the bureau chief said. "These people are my enemies. Moreover, their arrival threatened the safety of commoners. Naturally, I can't shirk my responsibility. I'm very gratified that you can think this way. There's a saying that the greater the power, the greater the responsibility. For you to be able to bravely take on this heavy responsibility, I would like to sincerely thank you on behalf of the commoners in the capital." The bureau chief's face was solemn as he said sincerely. "Bureau chief, you flatter me," Tang Zheng said modestly and took a sip of water. Since the other party didn't reveal his true intentions, he was happy to play dumb. The bureau chief pondered for a while and looked at Tang Zheng thoughtfully. Seeing that he didn't speak anymore, it seemed that he had to bring up this matter himself. Helpless, he could only say, "Tang Zheng, about the dragon, do you have anything to tell me?" Tang Zheng stared at him. Their eyes met, and he said without hesitation, "There's nothing to say." The bureau chief raised his thick eyebrows, as if he didn't expect Tang Zheng to reject him so directly. This almost blocked his next question. But since he took the initiative to come here, it was impossible for him to leave after hearing this answer. Thus, after pondering for a while, he asked, "The dragon really exists? That dragon's roar can't be faked. Moreover, the 100 Change Star Lord and Yamada no Orochi came for it. Your words don't seem to be convincing." Tang Zheng was still unmoved and said, "Did anyone see it?" "No. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. All kinds of evidence have shown that the dragon exists. It's useless for you to deny it." The bureau chief's voice rose a few notches. He seemed to be a little agitated. Tang Zheng was still as calm as an ancient well. Without batting an eyelid, he said, "Since you already believe in its existence, isn't it superfluous to ask this question again?" In this world, only Tang Zheng dared to say that the bureau chief's words were superfluous. The bureau chief wasn't angry. Even if he was, it would be useless. Moreover, he was more than that. Instead, he curled up the corners of his mouth and said, "Are you worried about something? The dragon is the totem of the Huaxia people. If we really find the dragon, it will be of great help to boost the spirit of our people. I have nothing to worry about. The dragon isn't something that you can control or even control. I think you've misunderstood. We have never meant to control the dragon. We don't even dare to think about it." The bureau chief denied. However, Tang Zheng didn't think so. The words of these superiors couldn't be completely trusted. Moreover, from number one's grand actions and his drive to dig 3 feet into the ground, it could be seen how much importance he attached to the dragon. Moreover, the dragon was a huge temptation. It evoked people's most primitive instincts. For the superiors, the most primitive instinct was to consolidate their position. To many people, the dream of lasting generations was a castle in the air. However, if there was a dragon, then it might really be possible to achieve it. Tang Zheng could imagine how great of a temptation this was. Since you don't mean to do that, then there's even less need to see the dragon. Moreover, if the dragon really appears in the eyes of the world, I'm sure you know better than I do how much panic it will cause. No, you're wrong about that. We are the descendants of the dragon. If the dragon really appears, then our faith will have a true sustenance. This is a good thing and won't cause panic. The bureau chief said solemnly. Regarding this, Tang Zhang was skeptical. The other party wanted to use all kinds of seemingly high-sounding reasons to convince Tang Zhang. Unfortunately, Tang Zhang didn't buy it. Seeing that Tang Zhang was stubborn, the bureau chief frowned even more. He gradually looked at Tang Zhang aggressively and said, "You want to monopolize the dragon?" Tang Zhang thought for a while and decided to admit it openly. Otherwise, the other party would definitely keep pestering him. "I already monopolized it." "What?" The bureau chief turned pale with fright and stood up with a whoosh. He looked down at Tang Zhang with a condescending gaze. At this moment, the aura that he tried so hard to hide was finally completely released. However, the aura of a superior was completely ineffective against Tang Zhang. Tang Zhang was still unfazed. He looked into the bureau chief's eyes and said, "You've heard it clearly. Monopolize the dragon? What do you want to do?" The dragon is Hua Xia's spiritual totem. Do you know what this means? The bureau chief questioned. "I only know that if it's in my hands, it won't cause a disaster to this world." The bureau chief was skeptical. "We are the descendants of the dragon. Why would the appearance of the dragon bring a disaster to us?" "That's because it was imprisoned by humans back then. That's why it hates humans so much. Do you think it'll be grateful to humans or take revenge after it escapes?" The bureau chief was speechless for a moment. Because, this was beyond his knowledge. He didn't know that the dragon was imprisoned by humans. He subconsciously thought that the dragon was very close to humans. That was why he was so confident that he could control the dragon and use it for himself. Looking at his changing expression, Tang Zhang's head moved. He suddenly thought of a plan and asked coldly, "Are you related to the Great Lord?" "Yes." "Ah. What did you say?" The bureau chief's mind was completely immersed in the world of the dragon. He didn't expect Tang Zhang to throw this question out of the blue. His subconscious answer immediately exposed the truth. Although he immediately realized that something was wrong and quickly tried to remedy it, it was still too late. Tang Zhang's eyes flashed. This was just a guess in his heart. He didn't expect that he would be able to trick the bureau chief into revealing the truth. At that moment, the shock in his heart could be imagined. The bureau chief was actually related to the Great Lord. Was it him or the government that was related to the Great Lord? How deep was this relationship? No wonder he rejected the idea when he mentioned the Azure Dragon Palace. It turned out that they were together. He had been fooled for so long and had been kept in the dark for so long. A strong sense of vigilance surged in his heart. However, because the other party had a close relationship with the Azure Dragon Palace, he definitely knew a lot about the Azure Dragon Palace. Let's see if we can trick him again. The bureau chief was confused by Tang Zhang's question. Only then did he realize the big problem. He frowned and stared at Tang Zhang. With an unfriendly expression, he said, "Are you tricking me?" Tang Zhang said with a fake smile, "I just don't want to be kept in the dark." "Then, have you always been telling the truth? When I asked you about the dragon, you should remember how you answered me, right?" The bureau chief asked back. Of course, Tang Zhang remembered. They didn't open up their hearts to each other. They were wary of each other and tried to cheat each other. No one could blame the other because their positions and interests were different. Tang Zhang wasn't a saint. Of course, he wouldn't stand on the moral high ground and criticize anyone. Chapter 9-10. The bureau chief couldn't do anything about Tang Zhang's attitude. If the Azure Dragon Palace found the dragon, he would have nothing to do with it. It was true that he had a close relationship with the Great Lord, but they were just using each other to maintain a fragile alliance. He couldn't command the Great Lord, and the Great Lord couldn't control him. That was why he wanted to rely on Tang Zhang to restrict the Azure Dragon Palace. But now it seemed that Tang Zhang wasn't that easy to control. His strength increased too quickly, and he was too mysterious. Now that the grudge had been formed, he couldn't make Tang Zhang change his mind. He couldn't help but feel a little annoyed. Tang Zheng was too smart. He didn't investigate properly and was tricked into revealing the truth so easily. I will definitely get the dragon. After a long silence, the bureau chief clenched his fists and vowed. Tang Zheng smiled. Go ahead, as long as you have the ability. Tang Zheng was probably the only person who dared to question his ability in this world. He snorted coldly, if you stir up trouble again in the future, I won't clean up after you anymore. It was obvious that Tang Zheng's actions this time had touched his reverse scale. Both sides were on the verge of breaking off their relationship. Tang Zheng wasn't scared. He said lightly, as you wish. The bureau chief angrily opened the door. Everyone's eyes were immediately attracted. Feeling his anger, everyone's heart tightened. A thought appeared in their minds, the negotiation had failed. Number 1 was also shocked. The bureau chief was courteous and personally came to visit, but Tang Zheng didn't buy it. This was too daring. Under everyone's gazes, the bureau chief and Number 1 hurriedly left. The others quickly surrounded Tang Zheng and asked him questions. Even Lan Yu and Mu Hongyan walked out of the kitchen and looked at him nervously. Civilians don't fight with officials, especially such a high-ranking official. No one knew what would happen in the future. Tang Zheng didn't explain much, but he wasn't so pessimistic. In the past, the big families didn't buy into the government's words and even forced them, but the government couldn't do anything. It was only because they were too powerful that the government didn't dare to act rashly. Now that Tang Zheng's strength had surpassed his, how could he be afraid of anyone? Tang Zheng waved his hand and said calmly, everyone, don't worry. It's not as serious as you think. We're not soft persimmons that can be easily bullied. It's necessary to express our position at the right time. Officials are all two-faced and two-faced. Now that we have so many properties, will he set us up? Mu Hongyan said worriedly. This was the area she was in charge of, so she was naturally more concerned about it. She didn't want to create unnecessary trouble. Since Sister Mu is worried, then let's go to Sweden immediately and make our plate bigger so that he won't dare to act rashly. Tang Zheng had started to set foot in his overseas business. When the time came, his domestic and overseas businesses would complement each other and complement each other. Naturally, his influence would be incomparable. No matter who it was that wanted to stir up trouble, they would have to think twice first. Speaking of which, he was still looking forward to Rockefeller's properties. After all, it was a big family with hundreds of years of history. It had a much deeper foundation than the few big families in the capital. Sister Mu nodded in agreement. Then we'll leave as soon as possible. And said excitedly, that's great. I'll arrange it immediately. She ran into her room to make a call. It's not safe overseas either. You must be careful. Fang Shishir looked at Tang Zheng affectionately and reminded him. The others knew that he was going to do something important, so they didn't say that they wanted to follow him. They just kept reminding him. But the only regret was that they couldn't go to Azure Dragon Palace for the time being. Also, the bureau chief must have seen Li Xiaotian in the crowd just now. The news that Li Xiaotian was still alive would probably spread. Tang Zheng couldn't guess what the Lord would think, but he wasn't afraid. With the Empyrean fairy at home, it shouldn't be a big problem. The bureau chief left in a huff. Sitting in the Hongqi car, the atmosphere was a little tense. Number 1 sat in the front seat and could clearly feel the anger he was suppressing. Bureau chief, since Tang Zheng doesn't know what's good for him, we don't have to be angry with him. Number 1 advised carefully. What do you know? The bureau chief said in a low voice. I'm just a martial artist. Indeed, I don't know about national affairs. But Tang Zheng is different now. He's really too strong. Before Number 1 could continue, he was interrupted by the bureau chief. What do you think I'm going to do to him? Isn't that so? Number 1 was stunned. It seemed that his worries were unnecessary. He let out a sigh of relief. We can't touch Tang Zheng for now, but we can't let him continue to develop like this. Or else, he will become a big problem one day. The bureau chief said. Then what should we do? Tell Yixuanji to come and see me. Yes. If the bureau chief wanted to see Yixuanji, he would definitely not personally visit him. This was the difference in strength between Yixuanji and Tang Zheng. When Yixuanji heard the summons, he had a stomach full of questions, but he did not dare to delay and rushed to the courtyard house. The Ya family was no longer the Ya family of the past. Although the bureau chief had ordered to support the Ya family a while ago, it was still a short period of time after all, and the results had not been seen yet. Yixuanji was grateful for the bureau chief's support, but he was well aware that the other party wanted to help him fight against Tang Zheng and Yan Padian. Could it be because of this again? But didn't Tang Zheng turn the tide yesterday? Logically speaking, his relationship with the bureau chief should be further improved. Yixuanji could not figure out the mystery behind it. Under the lead of number 1, he arrived in front of the bureau chief. Elder Yi, you're here. Please take a seat. The bureau chief took the initiative to stand up and welcome him. Yixuanji was flattered, but his expression did not change in the slightest. He sat down quietly and said, Bureau chief, what can I do for you to summon this old one? Elder Yi is a famous tea expert. How about you taste my Wui Mountain de Hong Pao first? The bureau chief was not in a hurry to reveal the answer, but said neither too fast nor too slow. Yixuanji did not ask any more questions. He picked up the teacup, took a sip, and praised, Good tea, this should be the tea from the old tea trees in Wui Mountain, right? Yes, there are only a few old tea trees left. Every year, there is only this little bit. If Elder Yi likes it, then bring a share back. The bureau chief said generously. This was a tribute, and ordinary people could not drink it at all. Yixuanji was a person who loved tea, so he accepted it respectfully. However, he was even more uncertain in his heart. If he gave a sweet date before talking about serious matters, then the following matter would not be a small matter. Elder Yi, I heard that the matters of the Ya family are now being taken care of by your grandson, Yiku? The bureau chief asked. Yes, after all, time waits for no man. This old one is already old, so it is better to leave it to the younger generation. I will enjoy a life of leisure. Elder Yi is too modest. You are old but vigorous. How many young people cannot compare to you? How can you just go into seclusion like this? The Ya family has reached great heights and should go further. How can this not be done without an old helmsman like you at the helm? Yixuanji's heart moved. He said thoughtfully, now that the situation in the capital has changed greatly, the Ya family is struggling to survive in the cracks. How can they go further? It is good to maintain the status quo. Elder Ye's thinking is wrong. The Ya family is a century-old family. Ups and downs are common. How can they be frightened by the difficulties in front of them? In my opinion, the Ya family has great potential. The bureau chief looked straight at Yixuanji and said. Yixuanji also looked up. Their eyes met and asked, Bureau chief, do you really think so? Of course. The bureau chief nodded. Yixuanji became excited, but the difficulties that the Ya family is facing are not small. If there are difficulties, then overcome them. To Elder Yi, difficulties are only motivation to move forward. As long as Elder Yi has the heart, nothing will be a problem. This was a direct reassurance for him. It was much more powerful than the secret support in the past. This was support on the surface, and also a promise. With this promise, even if the Ya family was in the cracks between the Tang Zheng and the Yan family, they could still find a ray of hope and grow strong. Although Yixuanji looked disheartened on the surface, and looked like he was going into seclusion, the fire in his heart was not extinguished. He wanted to lead the Ya family to greater heights and further. Now that the bureau chief had said this, the fire in his heart shot up. His thoughts were also active. Since the bureau chief has orders, the Ya family will naturally go through fire and water. If it was the Ya family of the past, Yixuanji would definitely not say this. He would even pretend to be reserved. But now, he would be an idiot if he still pretended to be reserved. The bureau chief nodded happily. The older the ginger, the spicier, the wiser. Talking to smart people is really easy. Elder Yi, please rest assured. I will fully support the Ya family. I will definitely restore the glory of the Ya family of the past. No, surpass the glory of the past and let the Ya family become the leader of the capital. The bureau chief said firmly. This old man thanks you. Yi Xuanji quickly got up and slightly cupped his hands. Yi Xuanji left with a heart full of pride. Although he did not ask what happened between the bureau chief and Tang Zheng, he could still guess a thing or two. Tang Zheng was young and full of vigor. He was completely out of the bureau chief's control. He was afraid that there was a conflict between the two, which gave the Ya family an opportunity to take advantage of. Yi Xuanji was an experienced person. He knew the situation in the country very well. With the support of the government, the Ya family's development momentum would increase by leaps and bounds. But when he thought of Tang Zheng, he couldn't help but feel a little guilty. He knew more about Tang Zheng than ordinary people. Especially when Tang Zheng saved his life in the world of spirits and souls, it made him even more afraid of Tang Zheng's supernatural means. But things were unpredictable. He had already walked to the opposite side of Tang Zheng. If he wavered, it would be bad. Since the bureau chief supported him to compete with Tang Zheng, then let's have a good fight. The bureau chief looked out of the door. The sun shone down from the sky and passed through the gaps between the leaves, sprinkling mottled spots of light. Number 1, in Tang Zheng's residence, did you notice one of the girls? There were too many girls in the Tang family. Even if number 1 had a firm mind, he was still dazzled. He asked blankly, which one is the bureau chief talking about? Is Li Xiaotian among them? The bureau chief had only seen Li Xiaotian's photo. Moreover, there was a rumor that Li Xiaotian was dead some time ago, so he felt a little strange. Chapter 9:11. After number 1 confirmed Li Xiaotian's identity, both he and the bureau chief had strange expressions on their faces. Li Xiaotian and Tang Zheng were sworn enemies. Why would he appear next to him and be so docile? Also, what was with the news of his death? Could it be a fake death to confuse people? The bureau chief suddenly thought of a possibility and turned pale with fright. Could it be that the Azure Dragon Palace and Tang Zheng have secretly joined forces? The so-called fight to the death situation was all done on purpose to deceive me? He was startled by the thought. But in an instant, he thought of Tang Zheng's previous attitude. This attitude showed that Tang Zheng and the Azure Dragon Palace were still incompatible like fire and water. He was completely confused. He would never have thought that Li Xiaotian had lost his memory. Should I question the Lord in person? He was caught in a dilemma. After hesitating for a while, he decided to suppress this discovery in his heart for the time being. Whether they are acting or have other plans, I'd better wait and see. Let them think that I haven't found out anything fishy about them. Because of this concern, the news that Li Xiaotian was still alive was concealed and not sent back to the Azure Dragon Palace. This was beyond Tang Zheng's expectations. And ticked. The princess's arrangement was very fast. Before Tang Zheng could go to the imperial city to ask the 5-clawed golden dragon about the Langya pavilion and the Tai Chi 2 forms sword technique, she had already settled everything. Even Qi Yu and the inner demons could not recognize this sword technique. It was probably not simple. Tian Chanzi and the Empyrean fairy might not know either. Therefore, he did not ask them at all. The weather was clear and there were no clouds in the sky. Tang Zheng, Mu Hongyan, Tian Chanzi, and Princess and boarded the special plane to Sweden. Other than the flight attendants, they were the only passengers on the Gulfstream commercial airliner. And took on the role of a guide and introduced the culture and customs of her country to Tian Chanzi. Mu Hongyan inadvertently glanced at Tang Zheng and found that he was facing the window, seemingly admiring the scenery in the sky. Ever since the last time the two of them almost had sex, the two of them had not had any intimate contact. This was because Tang Zheng was too busy during this period of time. Moreover, they were under the watchful eyes of others, so the two of them did not have the guts to do so. Tang Jing turned his head and coincidentally met Mu Hongyan's eyes. Mu Hongyan quickly averted her gaze, her ears turning red. This time, it was inevitable that the two of them would have a chance to be alone together. He wondered if something would happen. When she thought of this, her heart couldn't help but beat wildly. Ever since she had that thought, she felt more and more that Tang Jing was full of charm that she couldn't resist. There were several times when Tang Jing appeared in her dreams. When she woke up, she found that the sheets were wet, making her feel ashamed. Tang Jing didn't think too much about it. He was thinking about the problems he would encounter when he went abroad. The plane smoothly landed on the runway. A motorcade was already waiting there. The red carpet was laid out all the way to the airport's gangway. Tang Jing and the others walked out of the cabin door and saw two familiar people, the head butler of the royal family, Bruce, and the princess's bodyguard, Baser. The two people's eyes focused on the princess at the same time. They politely bowed and saluted. "Welcome back to the country." "Welcome all the guests." Princess Anne smiled and said, "Bruce, don't be so reserved. They are very easy to talk to." "Princess, etiquette cannot be abolished," Bruce solemnly said. Princess Anne secretly stuck out her tongue and didn't try to persuade him anymore. After all, she was a 19-year-old girl. When she stepped on her homeland, she was in high spirits. She took a deep breath and sighed, "Homeland is so good." Bruce added courteously, "Distinguished guests, please get in the carriage." The few people entered the two luxury cars. Princess Anne accompanied Tian Chanzi in one car. Tang Jing and Mu Hongyan entered the car behind. The luxury car with the Swedish flag at the front drove out of the airport with the police car opening the way. Tang Jing and Mu Hongyan both stepped on this country for the second time. They were not unfamiliar with it. They turned their heads to look at the scenery outside the window for a while. Then, they coincidentally withdrew their gazes. The two people's eyes inadvertently intertwined. Tang Jing's head moved, but he didn't move away. Mu Hongyan's heart was in a panic. She quickly turned her head, trying to resolve the subtle awkwardness. Suddenly, her hand was tightly gripped by a large hand. Her breathing immediately quickened as her face blushed all the way to her ears. She was so charming and beautiful that she couldn't compare to anyone else. She tried to struggle, but to no avail. She could only let Tang Jing hold her hand. As if holding a soft jade in the palm of his hand, Tang Jing's heart rippled. His fingers gently slid in her palm. The slightly numb and itchy feeling made her heart feel like a cat was scratching it. It was very subtle. She glared at Tang Jing, as if she wanted him to be more honest. However, Tang Jing's mouth hooked up into a playful smile. His fingertips condensed a trace of true energy, which wandered in her palm. Her whole body trembled. Her body became limp and numb. She weakly leaned against the back of the seat and glared at him with hidden bitterness. This enemy, there was a driver in front, but he dared to be so brazen. He really wanted to die. He made a fool of himself. Her heart was burning. How could Tang Jing not be? Seeing her breath like an orchid, he couldn't wait to continue what he had not finished last time. Dong! Tang Jing's phone fell under the car. Tang Jing bent down to pick it up. His body pressed against her thigh. Mu Hongyan was embarrassed and anxious. She knew that he must have done it on purpose. His face was almost pressed against her thin black silk stockings. Her skin could clearly feel the heat of his breath. Her heart almost jumped out of her throat, but she couldn't have too big of a reaction. Otherwise, if the driver in front saw it, what would he think? Tang Jing picked up the phone, but was not in a hurry to get up. He gently sniffed the fragrance coming from her body. The perfume on her body smelled very good. It was not too strong or too light. It was just right. Bo. Tang Jing's lips gently kissed the back of her hand. She felt as if she had been electrocuted. Her whole body trembled. It was as if she had turned into a pool of water. Her eyes could even drip water. Moreover, she felt that her skirt was wet. She couldn't wait to find a hole to hide in. This enemy really wanted to kill her. Tang Jing stopped. In order to avoid arousing the driver's suspicion, he unhurriedly sat up straight and said in a voice that only the two of them could hear, "Sister Mu, you seem to be very sensitive." Mu Hongyan no longer had any strength in her body. She could only look at him helplessly. After a while, she said, "Stop messing around. Otherwise, when we get off the car later, I will make a fool of myself." Tang Jing smiled mischievously, "Then beg me." Mu Hongyan looked at him pitifully. Finally, she helplessly said, "I beg you. If you want to beg someone, you should at least give me a gift." Tang Jing did not give up. "What gift do you want?" "Sister Mu, you are the best gift." This sentence ruthlessly hit the softest part of her heart. Her heartstrings trembled and her breathing quickened. She could not say another word. Looking at her shy appearance, Tang Zheng had an unprecedented sense of satisfaction. In front of other women, he would say beautiful words of love, but he would not tease her so unscrupulously. But looking at her shy appearance, he could not help but have the urge to tease her. Tang Zheng did not push his luck. He really did not do anything out of line. Seeing him behave, Mu Hongyan finally breathed a sigh of relief. But she also felt an inexplicable sense of loss. The motorcade finally arrived in front of the magnificent palace. The royal family had actually prepared a grand welcoming ceremony. However, these people were all calm and did not have the slightest bit of stage fright. Mu Hongyan had already calmed down. She smiled sweetly and looked like a charming lady. She attracted the attention of countless people. She was even comparable to Princess Anne. Westerners prefer this kind of mature beauty. Princess Anne was beautiful, but in the end, she was too immature. Of course, Tang Zheng and Tian Chanzi also received a lot of attention. They looked at the welcoming team expressionlessly. These people were all Swedish nobles and dignitaries. These people basically did not know why the king would receive them with such a high standard of etiquette. They were very confused and kept guessing. No one would think that this was related to Nicholas's death, and no one would think that Nicholas had died in the hands of this young man in front of them. The king personally received them, making them in the limelight for a while. There were even some people in the crowd who recognized Tang Zheng as the mysterious knight of Princess Annie who was once the talk of the town. Princess Annie was no longer a child. Could it be that Princess Annie and the knight were about to have a happy ending? Why did the king welcome her with such fanfare? Could it be that Princess Annie and the knight were about to have a happy ending? Marriage? Many people had this idea in their minds. They were very shocked. Was Princess Anne really going to marry a Huaxia? The power of rumors and slanders was great, and by the time the welcoming ceremony was over, the rumors and slanders had quietly changed. Princess Annie and Tang Zheng were about to hold their wedding ceremony. The protagonist of this rumor had no idea that he had already entered the palace and was arranged to stay there. Brosnan told them that there would be a welcome dinner in the evening. They were tired from the journey and could take a rest first. Tang Zheng found that he was living in the same room as last time. The room next door was Fang Shishi's room last time. There, the two of them secretly did a lot of things. Even the royal family did not know about it. However, this time it was Mu Hongyan next door. He had an idea in his mind. He would wait until it was dark and then turn over to see what would happen. This was a rare opportunity for the two of them to be alone. In the car, they had already ignited the fire in each other's hearts. If they did not do something at night, Tang Zheng doubted whether his pure yang power could be controlled. The rumors spread very quickly. They had already reached the ears of the king and queen. The two of them looked at each other in surprise. The queen could not help but ask, "Is Anne really in love with Tang Zheng?" The king also shook his head in confusion. "I don't know. Brosnan knows more about these things. I'll summon him in to ask." After a while, Brosnan came in. When he heard the question, he hesitated for a long time and said, "When they were in Huaxia, Her Royal Highness lived in Tang Zheng's house." "What? Why didn't you tell me this before? The king was shocked. The queen's face also stiffened. Chapter 9:12. Faced with the king's questioning, Bruce quickly explained, there are other people living in Tang Zheng's house, not just the two of them. Moreover, Her Royal Highness guaranteed that there is absolutely no inappropriate relationship with Tang Zheng, so I did not report to your majesty. This is a dereliction of duty. Humph, it must be, and who told you not to tell us, right? The king knew his daughter very well and asked a question that hit the nail on the head. Bruce smiled and did not say anything, which could be considered as a tacit agreement. The queen asked doubtfully, you said that there are other people living in Tang Zheng's house? Yes, the Miss Mu you saw today is living in his house, and there are some others. Why are there so many people living in his house? Maybe they are all good friends living together so they can take care of each other. Bruce was not too clear about the relationship between Tang Zheng and the others, so he speculated. Seeing that nothing really happened between the two, the king and queen were relieved, but they still sternly warned, this matter must not be known to outsiders, understand? Understood. This time, and return to the country and will not go to Huaxia again. Since the two of them are separated, naturally nothing will happen. The king said. The queen looked at the king in surprise and said, you want to bring her back? Don't you want her to keep in touch with that group of cultivators? The king smiled mysteriously. This time, even Tianchanzi was invited. I naturally have a way to improve my relationship with the cultivators. There is no need for and to appear in public. The queen was thoughtful, but when she thought of the rumors, she felt a headache. I don't know who spread these rumors. It's really not something a gentleman should do. The welcome banquet and ball in the evening will eliminate this misunderstanding. We can't let the rumors continue to ferment. The king was full of confidence. The banquet was held in a huge banquet hall, and many elites gathered together. Tang Zheng, Mu Hongyan, and Tianchanzi were specially arranged to be near the king and queen, which showed their status. When everyone saw this scene, they felt that the rumors were not false. The king stood up and said, guests, friends, ladies and gentlemen, we are all gathered here today to give a grand welcome to our distinguished guests from the East. Please allow me to introduce our three distinguished guests again. This is Anne's master, Tianchanzi. This is the young and promising Mr. Tang Zheng. This is the beautiful Ms. Mu Hongyan. Their company will reach strategic cooperation with our country. We will develop together in the fields of finance, technology, service, and so on. It will be mutually beneficial. After hearing such a detailed introduction, everyone finally understood that these three people were indeed from a powerful background. However, the doubts in their hearts grew even stronger. Especially Tang Zheng and Mu Hongyan's company, they had never heard of this name before. Why did they suddenly appear and form a cooperation? Princess Anne kept looking at Tang Zheng with a sweet smile. Because the two of them sat across from each other at the dining table, it was easy for their gazes to meet. In other people's eyes, there was a hint of flirting. They suddenly realized that this mysterious knight was able to obtain these cooperation because of Princess Anne. Wasn't this the so-called living off a woman in the East? No matter which country, men who lived off women were always looked down upon. Therefore, many elites cast disdainful gazes at Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng also felt these gazes and couldn't help but feel a little puzzled. He didn't know them, so why were their gazes so unkind? The banquet went smoothly. Compared to the East, the banquets in the West were less lively. They ate politely and were as gentlemanly as they could be. This was a scene that many domestic women dreamed of. It was high-end and classy. Perhaps many women wouldn't have time to eat and would just take photos and post them on their WeChat moments. Tang Zheng only hoped that it would end soon. Finally, in his impatient wait, the banquet came to an end. The king and queen were the first to stand up, and the others also stood up one after another. They filed out and went to another hall next door. The ball had begun. People gathered in twos and threes, and there was more freedom. Tang Zheng had no objection to this arrangement. After all, the host attached great importance to it, and he couldn't refuse the other party's good intentions. On the other hand, the heaven monk was like a fish in water. Although he did not know how to speak foreign languages, he had a good appearance with a sage-like demeanor, which attracted the favor of many noble ladies from other countries. When the music started, Tian Chanzi was pulled to the dance floor by a young woman who was at least 36D. Damn! Tang Zhang's eyes widened. This old hooligan actually made his moves so quickly. The size of the chest was really spectacular. It turned out that he liked this type. Your Royal Highness, may I invite you to dance? A handsome blonde man wearing a tuxedo walked over and bowed slightly to Anne. He was incomparably gentlemanly. Princess Anne smiled at him and said, Alex, I'm sorry. Someone has already invited me for the first dance. After saying that, she stretched out her slender jade hand to Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng was stunned for a moment. What was this for? My Mr. Knight, could it be that you don't want to invite me to dance? Princess Anne winked at Tang Zheng and said with a smile. I don't know how to. Tang Zheng said truthfully. Was this a rejection? Alex was dumbfounded. This brat actually rejected Princess Anne. This was the dream of many people. He couldn't help but feel a little jealous. But then he thought, you don't know how to, but I do. He eagerly looked at Princess Anne, hoping that Princess Anne would give up on this unromantic guy. But Anne acted as if she didn't see his eyes. She looked at Tang Zheng in surprise and asked, you don't know how to? Immediately, she smiled again, like the most beautiful flower in the world blooming. It was as if she had discovered something amazing. This kind of smile from the bottom of her heart made Alex feel very hurt and jealous. Alex was not an ordinary person. He was one of the many suitors of Princess Anne. Moreover, he was also a famous suitor. Ever since Princess Anne turned 15 years old, he launched a fierce pursuit. And chose to sail around the world. Part of the reason was that she couldn't stand his pursuit. Alex dared to do this. Of course, he had a background. Otherwise, how could an ordinary citizen dare to pursue a princess so crazily? At most, they would just look from afar and be satisfied. Alex's family was Europe's oldest and largest family, Rothschild. This family was very secretive. Ordinary people simply didn't know about it. They had never even heard of it. But the group of people who stood at the top of the world was like thunder in their ears. This family was involved in various fields and had a decisive influence on Europe. Back then, the Rockefeller family attacked Europe and assassinated the royal families of various countries. This caused panic and lasted for nearly a century. During this period, in addition to the resistance of the royal families of various countries, the biggest resistance force was the Rothschild family. Some people said that the Rothschild family was Europe's last line of defense. If this family fell, then Europe would completely fall. Fortunately, the Rothschild family persevered under the attack of the Rockefeller family's vampires and werewolves. The king had once told Tang Zheng about this period of history. However, he omitted the important Rothschild family. Even the royal families of various European countries didn't mention this family in their history books. This was because the royal families couldn't say that they kept the country and the throne because of this family and not because of their own efforts. This was slapping their own face. No one was willing to do such a stupid thing. The Rothschild family also didn't mind the royal families of various countries erasing their contributions. This family wasn't as popular as the Rockefeller family and frequently appeared in the public eye. They were better at, or rather, liked to lie dormant. If they encountered an enemy, they could take advantage of the situation and give the enemy a fatal blow. Of course, the most talked about were the 12 holy knights of this family. These were the 12 people who played a significant role in the long battle with the Rockefeller family and were conferred the title of Holy Knights. Countless vampires and werewolves died at the hands of the Holy Knights. It could be said that they were the most powerful group of people in Europe. Of course, they were also the most secretive group. They were like ghosts. Very few people knew of their existence. Even the royal families of various countries didn't know where the holy knights were today. Moreover, decades had passed since the battle that year. Were the 12 holy knights still alive? Even if they were already close to 100 years old. Could they still fight? But no one dared to question this question. I thought you knew everything. Finally, I found something you don't know. This is great. Princess Anne said happily as if she had discovered a new continent. Tang Jing rolled his eyes speechlessly. What was there to be happy about? I'll teach you if you don't know. It's very simple. You're so smart. You'll learn it quickly. And took the initiative to pull Tang Jing up and walk to the dance floor. Alex looked at this scene angrily. He invited Anne to dance, but she rejected him without hesitation. This stupid guy didn't know how to dance, but she volunteered to teach him. At that moment, he was completely inferior to Tang Jing. To be defeated by a guy who lived off a woman was like being slapped hard in the face. He even had the intention to kill someone. Tang Jing didn't care about this brother's thoughts. Looking at Princess Anne's back, he felt helpless. He couldn't just reject her. After all, she was a princess of a country. Her subjects were all watching. If he rejected her, he was afraid that he would be killed by their eyes. However, when Anne held his hand and walked to the dance floor, they immediately attracted the attention of most people. Princess Anne gave the first one to the mysterious knight. The relationship between the two was even more clear. It seemed that the rumors were true. Alex stood there in a daze. Seeing other people looking at him, he couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. He turned his eyes and saw Mu Hongyan. His eyes flashed with a touch of surprise, and then he politely invited, "Beautiful Miss Mu, may I invite you to dance?" Mu Hongyan's eyes were fixed on Tang Jing. Her heart was slightly sour. Hearing Alex's invitation, she refused without hesitation. "Sorry, I'm a little tired. I don't want to dance." She smiled faintly and walked to the side, leaving Alex standing there like a puppet in a daze, his mind in a mess. Chapter 9:13. Alex watched with jealousy as Tang Jing and Princess Anne danced on the dance floor. Tang Jing's movements were very rusty and he couldn't even grasp the rhythm. He was obviously a rookie and Princess Anne had been guiding him. If it wasn't for her, he would have already made a fool of himself. This made Alex burn with jealousy. You didn't look for a ready-made dance king but chose this brat. Wasn't this just looking for trouble for yourself? Later, when you make a fool of yourself, you will know how unwise your choice was. Tang Jing's movements attracted the attention of the others. Their lips curled into a faint smile and they couldn't hide the contempt in their eyes. So this mysterious knight was only so-so. They didn't know why Princess Anne would fancy him. Hiss. Anne lightly sucked in a breath of cold air and her mouth slightly twitched. This was because Tang Jing's foot stepped on her again. Although Tang Jing was an expert cultivator, it was inevitable that he would make a beginner's mistake. Looking at the burning gazes of the people around him, he couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. "It's okay, it will be fine in a while. I believe in you." Anne's lips curled up. She didn't take it to heart and leaned close to his ear, comforting him in a low voice. A burst of fragrance entered his nose, making him feel relaxed and happy. Her body leaned against him, as if they were close, yet not far. It was exceptionally moving. If it was someone else, they would probably be so excited that they would have a nosebleed. Tang Jing's breathing was steady. Although there were slight ripples in his heart, he didn't show it. "Okay, thank you." Tang Jing wasn't discouraged. "Since you want to see me make a fool of myself, how can I let you do as you wish?" Tang Jing's control of his body and rhythm could be said to be at the level of a master. Although he made a fool of himself at the beginning, his learning speed was extremely fast and displayed his high dancing talent. Anne's eyes lit up. "Yes, that's it. You learn quite fast." Tang Jing smiled. "It's all because you taught me well." "Of course." Anne raised her eyebrows and proudly boasted. Their dance steps began to harmonize. Tang Jing gradually took the initiative, leading and to perform all kinds of beautiful and difficult moves. Immediately, the two of them became the focus of attention. This was not because of Anne's princess halo, but because of their dance. Just now, many people were silently criticizing Tang Jing for being a rookie and waiting to see him make a fool of himself. Now, it was as if they had swallowed a fly, choking them speechless. Alex's eyeballs almost fell to the ground. What the F***ck is this called not knowing how to dance? Are you playing with me? He became more and more furious, thinking that Tang Jing was obviously lying to him just now, pretending to be a pig to eat the tiger. I will turn you into a real pig. He glared at Tang Jing hatefully. He had seen many of Anne's suitors, and of course, there was no lack of outstanding ones, but they were all defeated by him and left the scene. He was confident that one day he would be able to carry the beauty home, but halfway through, there was a Qin Yao Jin. No, a mysterious night, and rumors about him with the princess spread like wildfire. He was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. When he heard that princess and went to Huaxia, he wanted to immediately chase after her, but his family did not allow him to set foot in Huaxia, which made him full of anger. What night? That was a name given by ignorant people. They had never seen a real knight, so they could imagine the power of a knight. How could this Tang Jing be compared to the paladin and his family? He was not even worthy to carry her shoes. If Princess Anne's heart was captured by others, Alex might not have such a big reaction, but to be captured by an unknown Easterner, he absolutely could not accept this kind of failure. Looking at the two dancing like a prince and a princess, he clenched his teeth, thinking that the person in the spotlight should be me. He subconsciously clenched his fists, and, I will let you know who is your prince, and who is the toad at the bottom of the well. At the end of the song, Tang Jing and then finished with a difficult and classic dance, winning warm applause from the audience. This time, it was heartfelt applause. Although many people did not think highly of this pair, there was no dispute about their dance, so to receive this applause, it was well deserved. Dance King. Someone gave a thumbs up, and then the others followed. The title of Dance King instantly fell on the rookie Tang Jing's head. Alex's eyes turned red. This should have been his title, but it was taken away by this brat. How hateful. The two bowed and left the dance floor, but Anne was still holding Tang Jing's hand tightly, making others envious. She looked at him with a smile, her eyes full of affection, and a faint charming smile appeared on her mouth. You danced so well. This is the happiest and most satisfying dance I have ever danced. You flatter me. Tang Jing did not care, his eyes searching for Mu Hongyan's figure in the crowd. He was dancing happily here, so he did not want her to have any ideas. I'm going to the bathroom. Tang Jing did not see Mu Hongyan, his heart moved, and left, leaving and looking at his back with burning eyes. The queen came over, looking at her daughter's burning eyes, she could not help but have a headache. Originally, she wanted to take this opportunity to clarify the relationship between the two, but the more she tried, the worse it became. In the eyes of others, the two seemed to be more and more in that direction. The queen just heard a few people whispering that the two were a good match. Anne. Mother. And intimately took the queen's arm. Did I dance well? The queen lovingly patted her hand and said, of course you did well. Hee, Tang Jing is so good, you don't know that this is his first time dancing. Is it really his first time? The queen's eyes opened wide in surprise. She was like everyone else, originally thinking that the awkwardness at the beginning was deliberately created by the two, but she did not expect that Tang Jing was really a rookie. Of course, he is good, right? And showed off. The queen did not answer, falling into deep worry. The more outstanding Tang Jing was, the faster Anne would fall, which was not a good thing. At this time, Alex came over and persistently sent an invitation to Anne. Anne faintly smiled and tactfully declined, I'm sorry, I'm tired, I need to rest for a while. Another refusal. Alex angrily roared in his heart, the wind messed up, and his hatred for Tang Jing increased. Without a doubt, all of this was because of that brat. In the past, Anne was not so cold to him. Seeing Alex return in disappointment, the queen worriedly said, "Anne, Alex has pursued you for so long, why are you becoming colder and colder to him?" "I don't like him, I'm tired of him chasing me." Anne pouted and unhappily said, "Alex is actually very outstanding, you need to calm down and understand him better," the queen advised. Anne rolled her eyes and coquettishly said, "Mother, how can he be as outstanding as Tang Zheng? He is only relying on his family, not his own ability. Family is also a kind of resource, an advantage, there is nothing bad about it. In any case, I don't like the Rothschild family. Since you know that he is a member of the Rothschild family, you shouldn't be so cold to him." "So what if he is from the Rothschild family?" "I don't like him, I just don't like him." And stubbornly turned her head and coldly snorted. The queen was helpless and could only sigh in her heart. Many royal families in Europe had ideas about the Rothschild family, wanting to further their relationship with them. And had this opportunity, but she refused it. She really didn't know whether to say it was lucky or unlucky. Tang Zheng left to pee and finally found Mu Hongyan on a balcony. She was foolishly looking at the night sky. The night wind blew her long skirt and elegant black hair. The night sky was cloudless and filled with stars. It had a kind of intoxicating beauty. Mu Hongyan heard footsteps and turned around, looking at Tang Zheng in surprise. "Why are you here? Aren't you going to dance with Anne?" "What, are you jealous?" The corner of Tang Zheng's mouth hooked up as he teased. "Why would I be jealous?" Mu Hongyan pretended to smile lightly. The night wind blew and she subconsciously hugged her arms. Tang Zheng took off his coat and put it on her. Her heart warmed and she did not refuse, turning to look at the night sky again. "The night sky here is really beautiful, there is too much fog in the capital, it is hard to see this kind of night sky," Mu Hongyan said. Tang Zheng naturally hugged her from behind and said, "It won't be long before the night sky in the capital also becomes beautiful." The tree of life was transforming the world's spiritual energy. As long as the spiritual energy was rich, the air would become better. "Don't be like this, we will be seen." Mu Hongyan's body tensed up, her cheeks flushed red as she hurriedly refused, trying to break free from Tang Zheng's embrace. Tang Zheng allowed her to struggle, but he did not let go, not allowing her to refute as he said, "Don't move, otherwise if other people are attracted, I won't be responsible." Mu Hongyan bitterly looked up at him and faintly said, "You're bullying me." "How am I bullying you? How could I bear to? The night wind is so strong, I was afraid that you would catch a cold, so I hugged you to give you warmth." Although she knew that these were empty words, her heart could not help softening as a warm current flowed through her. She gave up struggling and allowed him to intimately hug her. With the night wind blowing, the two of them did not say a single word, but it felt like their hearts were tightly pressed together. An unprecedented sense of security enveloped her heart as her body softened. It was like she was soaking in a hot spring, relaxing her entire body. "Everyone is talking about you and Princess Anne, what do you think?" Mu Hongyan suddenly asked. "What should I think?" Tang Zheng asked back. "She is the princess that everyone has their eyes on, with so many people drooling over her. Could it be that you're not moved at all?" "I'm not moved. Compared to her, you are the one who moves me." Tang Zheng moved close to her ear and gently said, "You're not ashamed." Mu Hongyan glared at him, but her heart was filled with happiness. No matter what kind of woman they were, they all liked to hear words of love, and she was no exception. "These are my heartfelt words, how could I be ashamed?" Tang Zheng lowered his head and hugged her head, raising her neck. She knew what was coming and felt a bit of anticipation, but also a bit embarrassed. There was only a door between them and the others, so what if they were seen? But before she could think about it, that gentleness had already covered her red lips. With an explosion in her mind, she did not think about anything else as she immersed herself in this gentleness. Chapter 9:14. Alex looked at the scene outside the door in disbelief. He staggered and almost fell flat on his face. He rubbed his eyes to make sure that he was not seeing things. Tang Zheng was actually kissing that charming woman. He was so shocked that his jaw dropped to the ground. This brat actually dared to have a foot on 2 boats and deceive the princess. He was so angry that he was ready to teach these two a lesson and let and see his true colors. But on second thought, he retracted his foot, and a meaningful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. To catch a thief, catch the evidence, catch an adulterer, catch a couple. If it was just based on my empty words, and might not believe me. Instead, she might think that I am trying to sow discord. Humph, I will go find her and let her see it with her own eyes. This brat will have no way to quibble. Thinking of this, he was so excited that he quickly left quietly. Alex found and told her his discovery loudly and bluntly, which naturally attracted other people's attention. Anne, I will let you see this person's true colors. He actually dared to fool around with other women behind your back. They are on the balcony. You will understand my good intentions with just one look. When everyone heard that Princess Anne's mysterious knight dared to have such a daring rendezvous with his lover on the balcony, they could not help but be shocked. The flames of gossip burned in their hearts. This was a good show. How could they miss it? The king and queen looked at each other. Their eyes flashed with deep worry. If this was true, then it would be a scandal for the royal family. And had a calm expression. Tang Jing already had a girlfriend. Even if something really happened between him and someone, she would not be surprised. However, Alex actually mentioned Tang Zheng and Mu Hongyan. This was something that she did not expect, so she wanted to see what was going on. And, look! Alex pointed to the balcony as if he was presenting a treasure and shouted himself hoarse, look at how shameless they are. How can this kind of person be worthy of you? This kind of shameless person should be chased out of the holy palace. Alex's accusation was powerful and everyone looked towards the balcony. Ah! A woman's scream rang out. Alex was overjoyed and said even more excitedly, catch them in the act. Let's see how this adulterous couple will quibble this time. Everyone looked at the scene on the balcony with a strange expression. They looked at Alex meaningfully. Alex felt uncomfortable being stared at by everyone. He subconsciously turned his head to look. Immediately, his mouth opened wide. He stared at the two people on the balcony in disbelief and roared, why are you guys here? Isn't it Tang Zheng? The two people on the balcony were a well-known couple. They were shocked and at a loss, but they immediately calmed down. It wasn't like they were caught red-handed. What was there to be afraid of? However, their expressions became extremely gloomy as they glared at Alex and asked angrily, Alex, what is the meaning of this? Alex was stunned. He never thought that things would turn out like this. For a moment, he was at a loss. He muttered to himself, impossible. It was clearly them. How did it become you guys? The two of them had coincidentally left when Tang Zheng and Mu Hongyan left, and then secretly came here to kiss each other. However, they didn't expect that this romantic act would be destroyed by Alex's deranged actions. And coldly looked at Alex and angrily said, a true gentleman should not do this kind of nonsense. I want you to apologize to Tang Zheng. Alex quickly shook his head, no, it's not like that. I clearly saw Tang Zheng. How could it be them? What do you mean? The evidence is right in front of you. Do you still want to quibble? If you don't apologize, then don't expect me to say a word to you in the future. Princess Anne resolutely said. Alex was both angry and confused. What the F***K was going on? He was sure that he did not see wrong. However, he did not know that Tang Zheng's cultivation was shocking. If he dared to do this kind of thing on the balcony, then he naturally had confidence. When Alex walked past the door, Tang Zheng noticed him but did not say anything. Then he pulled Mu Hongyan into the ballroom. Mu Hongyan's heart almost jumped out of her throat. Her body was weak and her cheeks were red as if she was drunk. She hurriedly hid in the bathroom to calm herself down and touch up her makeup. Tang Zheng, on the other hand, was a quiet pretty boy in a corner, watching with interest as Alex brought a large group of people to catch the adulterers. Everyone looked at this scene and secretly shook their heads. Alex must be dizzy. He actually used such a clumsy method to sow discord. This time he was asking for trouble. The king and queen simultaneously let out a sigh of relief. It was fortunate that the royal family did not make a fool of themselves. Immediately, everyone looked at Alex with unfriendly expressions. Alex was riding a tiger and could not back down. However, he still stubbornly said, "I definitely did not see wrong," and gave a cold snort and turned around to leave without saying a word. "And, don't go. Listen to my explanation," Alex loudly shouted. And did not turn her head and said, "Unless you apologize to Tang Jing, don't expect me to forgive you." And just happened to see Tang Jing in the corner. She immediately walked over to him and angrily said, "Tang Jing, Alex has sinister intentions. Don't listen to his nonsense." Tang Jing smiled and looked at Alex without saying a word. His heart panicked from being looked at and he became even angrier. He loudly shouted, "I clearly saw you." Tang Jing indifferently asked, "And the result?" In the end. Alex stuttered, but he couldn't say anything. The result was seen by everyone. "I don't need to say more," Tang Jing said with a smile. "Yes, the result was that he deliberately tried to drive a wedge between us. This kind of person is too hateful." And chimed in. Alex was at a loss for words. He pointed at Tang Jing. His cheeks were red as he angrily said, "I will make you regret what you did today. This is Europe, not your backward Huaxia." Tang Jing's face darkened and said, "Arrogant. A frog at the bottom of a well. Even today, you dare to say that my great Huaxia is backward." Although there were many problems in the country, there was no doubt that this country was becoming stronger and stronger. At the very least, it was not backward. Of course, many people in the West still brought the Huaxia from 100 years ago into the current Huaxia. These people were ignorant. They were the real frogs at the bottom of a well. Tang Jing's words were powerful and a formless aura enveloped Alex's body. Alex was shocked and sat on the ground. He actually had an illusion that Tang Jing was like a mountain that was difficult to look up at. The pressure made his heart feel as if it was about to stop beating. This was the result of Tang Jing's dragon's might erupting. Seeing Alex's battered and exhausted appearance, the crowd burst into laughter. Alex's cheeks were red. He angrily climbed up and angrily said, "I will definitely make you regret what you did today." After he finished speaking, he pushed away the crowd and ran away in a sorry state like a defeated general. Seeing this, and hurriedly comforted, Tang Jing, "Don't listen to his nonsense. With me here, no one will dare to hurt you." "Do you think he can hurt me?" Tang Jing faintly smiled. And was slightly startled. "It seems that I was thinking too much." Seeing this scene, the king couldn't help but feel a headache. Alex wasn't an ordinary noble. He represented the Rothschild family. It wasn't a wise decision to become enemies with him. The ball didn't last long before it dispersed. The king called out to Tang Jing and the two of them went to the study together. Bruce gently closed the door and retreated outside, quietly waiting for the summons. The king looked at Tang Jing with a serious expression and said, "You made Alex look bad tonight. I'm afraid he will hold a grudge." Tang Jing didn't mind and said, "Is your majesty worried about my safety? There is no need. I know that you are quite capable and are a cultivator. However, there are also very powerful existences in Europe. They might not be weaker than you cultivators." The king muttered. Tang Jing's heart moved and asked, "Could it be that there are still remnants of vampires and werewolves in Europe?" "Those remnants are nothing to worry about. I'm talking about another group of people." "Oh." Tang Jing's thick eyebrows rose. This was new information. "I'd like to hear the details." The king originally didn't want to tell Tang Jing about the Rothschild family. After all, the royal family played a dishonorable role in it back then. However, now that things had developed to this point, if he didn't give Tang Jing some pointers, he would be young and impetuous. In the end, he would cause a huge mess and it wouldn't be easy to clean up. Although he trusted Tang Jing's strength, This was Europe after all. Europe was more ancient than the Atlantic Empire. The various powers here were complicated and maintained a fragile balance. If he wasn't careful, he would ignite a powder keg and break this balance. That would be a huge problem. In addition to the royal families on the surface, there is actually a large power in Europe, the Rothschild family. This is an old family that can stand shoulder to shoulder with the Rockefeller family. The king didn't hide anything and told Tang Zheng about the past, letting him know the power of the Rothschild family. The 12 paladins repelled the Rockefeller family together. This was a heroic feat. Although decades have passed, some people still doubt whether the 12 paladins are still alive and whether they still have the strength they had in the past. However, in my judgment, I'm afraid that the 12 paladins are still alive. Therefore, you can imagine the power of the Rothschild family, and Alex is a member of this family. Tang Zheng suddenly realized why the old king was so serious. It turned out that there was such a large power hidden in Europe. You also know that Nicholas died in my hands. Do you think I would still be afraid of the 12 paladins? Tang Zheng didn't think much of it. These Westerners often like to boast, but compared to the practitioners of Hua Xia, they were still lacking. The Rockefeller family was the best proof. Seeing that Tang Zheng didn't think much of it, the king became anxious and hurriedly said, "There is a saying in Hua Xia that an arrogant army is bound to lose." I think this saying is very classic. Although Nicholas lost in your hands, Rothschild is not Nicholas. You can't generalize, so it's better to be careful. The king seemed to have unlimited power these years, but in fact, he had always been cautious. So when he saw Tang Zheng's attitude, he was secretly anxious for him. Chapter 9:15. Although the king's words were very serious, Tang Zheng disagreed and said, "I don't have a direct conflict of interest with the Rothschild family. If they want to fight me to the death just because of Alex, then this family wouldn't have been able to stand for so many years without falling." Big families were very cautious. If they made a big fuss just because of one person's jealousy, then it would be making a big fuss out of nothing. Besides, didn't the Rothschild family always pay attention to keeping a low profile? That was even more unlikely. After listening to Tang Zheng's explanation, the king pondered for a while and had to admit that what he said was true. He nodded and said, "Your analysis is very reasonable. It seems that I was too concerned, but in any case, it's better to be careful. Thank you for your reminder, Your Majesty." Tang Zheng was not a person who was afraid of trouble, and of course, he was not a person who liked to stir up trouble. As long as the Rothschild family did not provoke him, then he would naturally not pay attention to them. The Rockefeller family has a lot of property in Europe. I have already arranged it for you. You can act tomorrow. Bruce will accompany you all the way, the king said. Thank you, Your Majesty. Madame Mu is fully responsible for this matter. She is more proficient in business than I am. The king said hesitantly, "This is a huge fortune." Tang Zheng knew what he was thinking and waved his hand. "Your Majesty, I chose her because I believe in her." The king was slightly startled. He did not expect Tang Zheng to trust Mu Hongyan so much. He did not say anything more and nodded. "Then it's up to you." Tang Zheng left the study. Tian Chanzi came out of nowhere and looked at him with a meaningful smile. Tang Zheng was baffled and said, "Tian Chanzi, why are you smiling so lowly? Boy, you are slandering me. I am so sage-like. How could I have anything to do with that word?" Tian Chanzi refuted righteously. Tang Zheng curled his lips and said, "Don't flatter yourself. I saw that you were very coquettish today. You seem to be having a lot of fun dancing with others." Tang Zheng gestured in front of his chest. Tian Chanzi immediately thought of the woman with large breasts, but he retorted seriously, "Nonsense, this is communication, understand?" Tang Zheng chuckled. "I understand. You don't have to explain. The more you explain, the worse it gets. You still have the nerve to talk about me? Don't think I don't know what you did. That Alex didn't frame you, right?" Tian Chanzi said meaningfully. Tang Zheng's heart skipped a beat. He really couldn't hide anything from Tianchanzi's discerning eyes, but he said without changing his expression, "If he's not framing me, then what is? Why are you siding with an outsider?" After that, Tang Zheng walked away without looking back. Guilty conscience. Tianchanzi shouted at Tang Zheng's back. Tang Zheng didn't say anything. When he returned to his room, he thought of Mu Hongyan who lived next door. He wondered if he should climb over the wall. But when he thought that Tianchanzi must be secretly watching, he temporarily suppressed the idea in his heart. Ding! A text message came in. "Rest early, good night." Mu Hongyan sent a text message. Mu Hongyan had never sent him a good night text before. He felt warm in his heart and quickly replied, "Did you miss me?" This text message was like a stone sinking into the sea. There was no reply. He guessed that she might have fallen asleep, so he fell into a deep sleep. But he didn't know that this text message kept Mu Hongyan awake for most of the night. She had been wondering whether to reply or not. She was very worried that Tang Zheng would come in the middle of the night. What would happen if he found out? But there was also a faint expectation in her heart. She was much less reserved than other girls. She knew what she needed. Of course, she was very eager, but her rationality stopped her. If Tang Zheng really sneaked in, she was afraid that she wouldn't resist. In the end, she struggled until she was exhausted and fell into a deep sleep. Tianchanzi used his energy to eavesdrop for a long time, but there was no sound. He sighed. How could this guy be so stupid? Although this Mu Hongyan's Qi was weak, it was better than nothing. He was actually indifferent to such a great beauty. He was really a blockhead. If Tang Zheng knew Tianchanzi's thoughts, he would probably be impatient to climb over the wall. The next day, Mu Hongyan and Bruce left to deal with business matters. Tang Zheng was called in by An early in the morning. She volunteered to take Tang Zheng on a tour of her country. Last time, Tang Zheng came and went in a hurry, so he didn't have time to properly appreciate this country. Tang Zheng couldn't refuse, so he could only follow her. Tianchanzi didn't want to be a third wheel behind the two of them, so he left the palace on his own. When Tang Zheng saw the team ready to go, he realized how wise Tianchanzi's decision was. With so many attendants surrounding him, how could he play? Tang Zheng didn't like this kind of life. And saw through Tang Zheng's thoughts. Her eyes lit up and she whispered, "Do you have a way to slip away from under their noses? We can get rid of them and play by ourselves." Tang Zheng was also a fearless person, so he readily agreed, "No problem, then we'll think of a way to slip away." Baser and the others were still bitterly waiting for Princess and to get on the carriage, but they didn't notice that the two people had already jumped down from the palace's window, which was more than 10 meters high. They quietly fell into a dense forest nearby. And had a rebellious spirit hidden in her bones. When she sneaked into the forest, her cheeks were red with excitement, as if she was drunk. I've always wanted to escape from their eyes and ears, but every time I didn't succeed. This time, with your help, I finally succeeded. When your cultivation is high in the future, this will only be a small matter. Tang Zheng lightly said. When will my cultivation be as high as yours? Anne's expression darkened as she said dejectedly. If you use the crystals to absorb the energy within, your cultivation will naturally be twice the result with half the effort. Crystals? Anne's expression stiffened. Of course she knew that her father had more than 2 crystals, but as for how many he had, she didn't know. You won't tell me that your father really doesn't have any more crystals, right? Tang Zheng said with interest. And awkwardly said, so you already know. Not only do I know, even Tianchanzi knows. Tang Zheng didn't want to hide it from her. Crystals were really good things. Although he now had Qi Yu's heart's blood and didn't need to absorb the energy of crystals, the people around him needed it too much. Master actually knows about it too. Annie was shocked. Your father specially invited Tianchanzi this time. It's not as simple as just wanting to see him, right? You should have other requests. Since we're not outsiders, you might as well just get straight to the point with Tian Chanzi. This was Tang Zheng's guess, so he directly told her, there was no need to beat around the bush. Anne's expression kept changing, thinking that she had to tell her father about this matter. But she didn't want to let this matter spoil her mood. In the blink of an eye, her face was full of sunshine as she said, let's not talk about this. Let's quickly leave this forest and go to the main street. My country has a long history and has many famous scenic spots. Your trip will definitely be worthwhile. Then I'll wait and see. Before coming out, Anne had specially dressed up so that people who weren't familiar with her wouldn't be able to recognize her. The two of them walked along the streets, which were filled with the ancient charm of history. This country's population wasn't large, so it wasn't as busy as their home country. It was very leisurely and comfortable. There were many cafes along the street, and many people sat inside and ordered a cup of coffee without doing anything, lazily basking in the sun. Tang Zheng couldn't help but sigh. This was a developed country. His own country was too far behind and still had a long way to go. Hundreds of years ago, his own country was still standing at the top of the world, but the world had changed and it had fallen to this point. Huaxia will definitely rise. Tang Zheng was full of confidence. And was like a lively spirit, full of vitality. Unknowingly, she grabbed Tang Zheng's hand and didn't let go. Her hand seemed to have no bones, slightly cold and very soft. It was very comfortable to hold in his hand. The two of them toured the ancient ruins and visited the magnificent and mysterious church. In the end, Tang Zheng actually saw a Chinese tour group in the crowd. Chinese tour groups had been criticized for all these years. They were said to be of poor quality and had lost their face overseas. But this tour group didn't have such bad habits. Clearly, one couldn't generalize from one side. Look at your countrymen. Princess Anne also saw this tour group. Let's go over and say hello. After saying this, she pulled him to the front of the group of tourists and waved in a friendly manner, friends of Huaxia, hello everyone, welcome to my country. This friendliness stunned everyone. Such a beautiful foreign girl could actually speak Huaxia. This made them very surprised. Hello, hello. Everyone responded excitedly. I hope you like my country. Princess Anne said. Yes, this country is very beautiful. Everyone praised politely, but more people noticed Tang Zheng, who was holding hands with Anne. Suddenly, everyone's eyes lit up. Could this foreign girl be this young man's girlfriend? Then this young man must be from Huaxia. He really brought glory to the country by finding such a beautiful foreign girl. Hello, everyone. Tang Zheng also smiled and greeted in a friendly manner. Wow, you're really from Huaxia. Handsome, you're so awesome. Everyone gave him a thumbs up. Tang Zheng smiled lightly and said, I hope you have fun. Seeing that someone in the crowd had already taken photos of him and Anne, he pulled Anne and prepared to leave. But Anne saw that the little girl in front of her was very cute. She bent down and held her face, praising, wow, what a cute little girl. Suddenly, Anne felt a hot liquid sprinkle on her face. She touched it subconsciously and her hand was full of blood. Tang Zheng's reaction was faster than Annie's. He saw that the moment Annie bent down, the little girl's mother's chest bloomed with a dark red flower of blood. Sniper rifle. Tang Zheng's nerves immediately tensed up. He shouted, get down, and pushed Anne and the little girl to the ground. Whoosh. Chapter 9:16. Tang Zheng sensed the bullets coming from behind him. In order to avoid shocking the world, he did not use the holy armor shield. Instead, he quickly carried Anne and the little girl and quickly dodged. In a flash, a single hole appeared on the stone slab on the ground. White smoke rose from the hole and stone chips flew everywhere. Ah! Everyone finally reacted and screamed as they scattered in all directions. The woman who was shot fell into a pool of blood. No one knew if she was dead or alive. Tang Jing firmly used his body to protect Anne and the little girl. He suddenly turned around and saw a few tall and strong men with sideburns rushing out of an off-road vehicle. These people wore baseball caps, camouflage pants, black short-sleeved t-shirts, and tactical vests. They held rifles in their hands and looked like they did not want anyone to get close to them. Mercenaries. Tang Jing had seen this kind of outfit in a movie before. It was a standard mercenary outfit. Who were these people targeting? Anne? He quickly recalled the scene just now. The bullet was aimed at Anne. However, by chance, Anne bent down and the little girl's mother became a sacrifice. A strong murderous intent surged in his heart. It was not only because these people were targeting Anne, but also because of him. An unfamiliar compatriot was shot and fell to the ground. These people aimed their guns at Anne from afar and pulled the trigger at the same time. Tang Jing did not care about his own safety. He waved his war spirit. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Sword chi vibrated and intertwined into a huge invisible sword net. Puff puff puff, the bullets hit the sword net. The air vibrated and set off a biting cold wind that blew in all directions. A few trees nearby were cut in half. Everyone screamed and ran away in fear. The mercenaries did not expect the bullets to lose their power in midair and fell to the ground one after another. This scene was beyond their common sense. However, they were well-trained soldiers. Attacking was their only thought. Although they could not understand the situation, they did not retreat. They directly stood a few meters away from Tang Jing. Tang Jing did not dare to move. Although Anne was also a cultivator, her strength was too weak. In this situation, she did not have the strength to protect herself. If he rushed out to deal with this group of people, in case the hidden sniper attacked, her life would be taken. He was the one who brought Anne out. He would definitely not let anyone hurt her and the little girl in her arms. Looking at the little girl, he thought of Nana at home. They were at the same age as flowers. They should bloom brilliantly and not wither. There were so many mercenaries, and there was even a sniper hiding in the dark, so Tang Jing couldn't care less about shocking the world. With his finger, war spirit, he directly flew out. Since he could not leave Anne, he would use the sword to attack. These mercenaries would never have dreamed that he would have such a method. War spirit was as fast as lightning. With a sword, it pierced through the chest of a mercenary. A huge bloody hole appeared on his chest. He stared with his eyes wide open. He could not believe that he had died just like that. Seeing this, the other mercenaries turned pale with fright. However, they did not retreat. They changed the magazine and continued to pull the trigger. The bullet shells scattered all over the ground. Kacha! The sword net was finally unable to bear the burden and shattered. Seeing this, the other party became excited. The bullets shot over even more crazily. In for a penny, in for a pound. Since he had already used the war soul, he might as well take out the holy armor shield as well. The sacred armor shield flashed and appeared in his hands. Bang bang bang. The bullets hit the sacred armor shield, but the sacred armor shield was unscathed. It did not even leave a mark. This was much stronger than the bulletproof vest they were wearing. Seeing Tang Jing's endless tricks, the mercenaries looked at each other in dismay. Even if their hearts were firm and they didn't know what fear was, seeing these things that were beyond their knowledge, their hearts couldn't help but beat like a drum. Kill! Tang Jing angrily roared, and the battle's soul sword attacked again. It descended from the sky, and with a poochie sound, it directly chopped down on the head of a mercenary. Then, from top to bottom, it did not stop at all. In an instant, the mercenary was split into two, and the two halves of his body fell to the sides. The mercenaries were experienced and knowledgeable, but seeing this kind of death, their faces turned ugly. They hurriedly shouted into their headphones, "Quick, shoot!" A powerful bullet shot out and hit the sacred armor shield with a bang. It was still unable to break through the sacred armor shield's defense. Another sniper. This time, Tang Jing finally caught the trajectory of the bullet. He looked up and saw the roof of a building dozens of meters away. He squinted his eyes. Although it was dozens of meters away, he could still vaguely see a gun barrel on the roof. Bang bang bang. The sniper missed and continued to shoot. It was as if he was not afraid of exposing himself. This was because he had to protect his companions as they retreated. The mercenaries saw Tang Zhang's tricks. After attacking for a long time, they finally realized that their mission had failed, so they decisively retreated. They were extremely afraid of the war spirit that was floating in the air. This sword was their nightmare. It could actually fly in the air against common sense. Could it be that it was some kind of high technology? They stopped shooting at Tang Zhang and directly pulled the trigger on the war spirit. The war spirit was hit until it made crackling sounds, but it still firmly stopped in the air. It only slightly swayed a few times. Their movements were very fast. They immediately retreated to the SUV and started the car to prepare to escape. Tang Zhang was furious and roared, "You want to escape? Go to hell." With a point of his finger, the war spirit flew out with a whistling sound and flew in front of the SUV's windshield. Everyone in the car saw the sword that was like a ghost. However, they were sitting in a car that was like an iron wall, so how could they be afraid of a sword? The car engine roared, and the back of the car spewed out black smoke. The car rushed out like a wild beast. Whiz! The war spirit slashed down. Puff! Like cutting tofu, the war spirit slashed through the middle of the SUV. In an instant, the SUV disintegrated. Just like the mercenaries, it was split into two. Boom! The SUV crashed into a big tree on the side of the road and turned into a pile of scrap metal. With a boom, it exploded into a ball of fire and soared into the air. Tang Zhang did not even look at it. He turned around and looked at Anne, whose expression was as usual, and warned, "Don't run around. Take the holy armor shield and protect yourself and her." This was not the first time and had encountered an assassination attempt. This was the tragedy of the royal family. Although they were the focus of attention, they were also the target of public criticism. "Don't worry, I will protect her." Anne hugged the trembling little girl in her arms and said firmly. She also knew that she had brought harm to this little girl and her mother whose life was uncertain. She felt very guilty and said angrily, "We must make the murderer pay with blood." Tang Zhang did not say a word and rushed out like lightning. The war spirit flew back into his hands. He looked around and saw that there were no more snipers on the balcony. He did not give up and directly rushed to the building. With a tap of his foot, he soared into the air. Then, he lightly tapped the wall a few times and soared into the air, like an eagle flying to the roof. Although the others fled in all directions, they did not escape too far. Many people subconsciously used their phones to record this intense battle. Many people's eyes lit up as they looked at Tang Zhang in disbelief. The various methods he displayed were something they had never heard of or seen before. Of course, many people also subconsciously thought that Tang Zhang's war spirit and holy armor shield were high-tech products. But when Tang Zhang walked up from the wall as if he was walking on flat ground, they were so scared that their phones almost fell to the ground. Was this still a human? Everyone looked at each other in dismay as if they had discovered a new continent. They all shared this video on the internet. A motorcade drove out from the corner of the street and rushed towards Anne like lightning. Everyone's heart tightened. Could it be another mercenary? Everyone's heart could not help but be anxious for Anne and the others. But those with sharp eyes noticed the royal family's insignia on the motorcade and cried out in alarm. Why would the royal family's motorcade appear here? Everyone looked at each other in dismay, not knowing what to do. But when they saw that the motorcade had not yet stopped, a group of people jumped out. The first to bear the brunt was Bezer. Bezer had never been as anxious as he was today. Originally, he was going to accompany Her Highness to tour the city. But he did not expect that Anne and Tang Zhang would disappear. Without a doubt, these two people deliberately wanted to get rid of them. He knew that Tang Zhang's strength, and all of them combined could not compare to him. But after all, this was his duty, and he could not push his responsibility to Tang Jing. So, he still led a group of guards to look for Princess Anne in the city. Fortunately, there were only a few famous scenic spots in the city, so it did not take long for them to find this place. But they did not expect to hear the fierce sound of gunfire, as if they had come to a battlefield. They realized that something was wrong and quickly rushed over. When they saw the messy battlefield, the shocking sight of corpses and car wreckage, they realized how tragic the battle was. Beizer's heart sank to the bottom of the valley. How was Princess Anne? If something happened to her, he would not be able to live. Princess Anne had helped him before, and he remembered it in his heart. He would rather sacrifice himself than let her be hurt. Princess Annie saw Beizer and the others and hurriedly called out, "I'm here." This was like the sound of nature, and they all breathed a sigh of relief. They rushed over and surrounded Princess Annie in the middle, forming a human wall. Every one of them was armed with a rifle, and they were on alert. Princess Anne finally stood out from behind the holy armor shield. The crowd in the distance also saw her. Someone finally recognized her and shouted, "Princess Anne, it's Her Highness." Anne was the first princess in Europe. Although there were many princesses in Europe, there was no doubt that she was the most famous and the most popular one. Only then did everyone realize that it was the royal motorcade. It turned out that Princess Anne was the one who was attacked. Who would be so daring to assassinate Princess Annie? Chapter 9:17. Tang Jing climbed to the top of the building and saw a figure jump down from the top of the building. He quickly chased after it but found that it was a rope between the two floors. The sniper was already in the middle of the rope with a pulley. The sniper seemed to have sensed that there was someone behind him and suddenly turned his head, only to find Tang Jing standing not far away, staring straight at him. The sniper was so shocked that he almost fell from the sky. How did this person get up? Why was he so fast? Whoosh! Tang Jing moved. He stepped on the rope and chased after the sniper as if he was walking on flat ground. He was much faster than the sniper. The sniper's eyes flashed with horror. He grabbed the pulley with one hand and took out his pistol with the other. He aimed at Tang Jing and pulled the trigger. The bullets flew past Tang Jing, but he didn't slow down. He flew over the sniper's head and reached the top of the opposite building first. The sniper was terrified. There was no way to retreat. He was dozens of meters above the ground. He would definitely die if he fell. So he could only watch as he got closer and closer to Tang Jing. His magazine was empty and there was nothing he could do. Tang Jing shot out like lightning, grabbing the sniper's neck and pulling him down from the air. The sniper tried to struggle but couldn't move at all. "Tell me, who sent you here? Do you want to kill Princess Anne or deal with me?" Tang Jing asked murderously. "I won't tell you," the sniper said stubbornly. "Even if you don't tell me, I have a way to find out." Tang Jing didn't want to waste time with him. He wanted to use the soul-searching technique. However, with a bang, the sniper's head exploded. Red and white liquid exploded in all directions. Tang Jing was scared out of his wits and hurriedly dodged far away. The sniper softly fell to the ground, but his head had already been blown away. Could there be another sniper? Tang Jing looked around but didn't find anything suspicious. Moreover, he didn't hear the sound of a bullet. A bomb. He immediately thought of a possibility. Could it be that the sniper had installed a mini bomb in his head and detonated it remotely? He sucked in a breath of cold air. This meant that the enemy had not been completely eliminated, and there were still enemies spying on them in the dark. He was worried about Anne's safety, so he didn't waste any time at the top of the building. He jumped down from the top of the building, and with a quick tap of his toes on the wall, he landed firmly on the ground. A group of royal guards rushed over. When they saw him jump down from such a high building without a single scratch, they all turned pale with fright. "The sniper's body is on the rooftop," Tang Jing said and quickly returned to the scene of the incident. The guards surrounded Princess Anne as if they were facing a great enemy, fearing that the enemy would attack. and lay beside the little girl's mother and pressed down on the spot where she was shot in the chest to stop the blood from flowing out. "She's not dead?" Tang Zheng was shocked and couldn't help but feel a little relieved. If this innocent person was really implicated and lost his life, whether it was him or Anne, they would both feel very sad and guilty. He took 3 steps and rushed over. When Anne saw Tang Zheng, she was like a drifting duckweed that finally found its roots. She anxiously shouted, "Tang Zheng, quickly save her. Let me do it." Tang Zheng supported the woman, his true chi flowed, and he immediately investigated her injuries. The bullet was left in the chest, but it didn't hurt the main organs and aorta. The only trouble was that the bullet was still in the body. If it stayed there for a long time, it would be dangerous. The little girl was crying on the side, crying and shouting, "Mom, wake up, don't leave me." Seeing this scene, Tang Zheng and Anne's heart tightened. Tang Zheng quickly comforted her, "Child, don't cry, your mother is fine, I will save her." The little girl didn't understand, sobbing, "You must save my mother, I only have one mother." Bezer urged, "Your Highness, let's leave here first. This is the square, it is very spacious and there are many eyes. If there is a sniper, then it will be difficult for us to guard against." Bezer looked at the surrounding crowd and the surrounding buildings, afraid that another bullet would shoot out from somewhere. As Anne's bodyguard, of course he first considered her safety. This was his duty. Anne was not moved and firmly said, "I will not leave, she was injured because of me, unless she is out of danger. Princess, we will send her to the hospital." Bezer quickly persuaded. "Your persuasion is useless, I must see with my own eyes that her life is not in danger, then I will leave." Anne persisted. "Stop arguing." Tang Zheng shouted, stopping the two, "I will save her, be quiet for me." Anne was overjoyed and quickly asked, "Really?" But seeing the serious look on Tang Zheng's face, she quickly covered her mouth. Bezer wanted to persuade again, but seeing Tang Zheng's appearance, he swallowed back his words. Tang Zheng silently urged his internal energy, one of his internal energy protected her heart, while the other carefully pushed the bullet out of her body. Under everyone's eyes, the bullet was pushed out little by little, falling to the ground with a crisp sound. Anne and Bezer were already used to this, but the other bodyguards had an expression of disbelief. Tang Zheng quickly used his internal energy to seal the blood vessels around the wound, stopping the bleeding. Then he picked her up and said, "Get in the car, we are going to the hospital." And held the pretty girl's hand and said, "I will go with you." Tang Zheng did not refuse. Bezer had objections, but he did not dare to show it, and could only order his subordinates to immediately move. Tang Zheng quickly got into the car, but a Hua Xia woman timidly rushed over, shouting and screaming, but was stopped by the bodyguards. Tang Zheng glanced and saw that it was someone from the tour group, perhaps this woman's friend. He shouted, "Let her come over." Bezer hesitated and flew into a rage. "What are you standing there for, didn't you hear? Let her come over." The bodyguards did not dare to stop them, and the woman rushed over, asking in a panic, "How is she? Is she in danger? You are her friend, right? Get in the car, we are going to the hospital." Tang Zheng said as he got into the car, and the others also got in one by one. The motorcade rushed to the hospital, and at the same time, more than 10 police cars drove out from the streets, protecting the motorcade, sounding the alarm, and headed to the hospital. The cars on the road gave way to the motorcade, and there was a lot of discussion when they saw the motorcade, especially the royal cars, which aroused a strong interest. At the same time, the internet was in an uproar. The video of Princess Anne's assassination had skyrocketed to millions of views, and it was still rising. Everyone started to accuse those evil people of daring to do such a thing to Princess Annie, who was loved by everyone, and even had flowers blooming in her sight. Of course, the other focus of people's attention was the unbelievably powerful man in the video. A hero saving a beauty, envied by others. This man was soon found out by people, and it turned out to be the princess's mysterious knight. Was this knight specially sent by God to save the princess? Every time the princess was in danger, he seemed to come from the sky and save the princess. Originally, many people were still cursing this mysterious knight for being so lucky to win the heart of Princess Anne, but seeing this scene, many of them were convinced and sighed. With such powerful strength, it was no wonder that he could attract the princess. Of course, Princess Annie's valiant appearance when she saved the people had attracted many people's attention. Many people had turned into her fans and liked this straightforward princess. Tang Zheng and the others, of course, didn't know about the uproar on the internet. They had already rushed to the hospital, and the hospital had received the notice in advance and immediately sent the injured to the operating room for rescue. Princess Anne sat at the door of the operating room, holding the little girl's hand, and looked at the operating room anxiously. Tang Zheng comforted her, "Don't worry, he will be fine." Anne's face was painful, and she said guiltily, "But I'm still worried that he was shot because of me." Tang Zheng's heart sank. He couldn't get away from this matter. If he wasn't from Huaxia, and wouldn't have gone to ask about this tour group. "Your Highness, it's not your fault. The bad guy is too evil." At this time, the patient's friend who had been silent all this time spoke. Although she was concerned about the safety of her friend, she had been very nervous. After all, the other party was the princess, and for many people, the princess was an existence that they could only look up to. Although Anne was approachable, she was still very nervous. Hearing her say this, Anne finally breathed a sigh of relief and said, "Don't worry, I will definitely get justice for her. I will definitely not let the murderer go unpunished." On the way, Tang Zheng had already told them that the sniper was killed, but also that the accomplice was still there. The always benevolent princess Anne finally lost her temper. While in the car, she called the king to inform him that the country's machinery was already in operation, and it was necessary to get to the bottom of this matter. After calming down, Tang Zheng figured out the ins and outs of the matter, and asked doubtfully, "How did this group of killers know where you were so clearly?" Anne's expression froze. Although they were acting alone today, the attractions they visited were more or less the same as what they had planned. Unless someone knew their itinerary in advance, how could they have arranged for the mercenaries to wait here so coincidentally? "Are you saying that there's a mole among us?" Hearing this, Beizer's expression became very unpleasant. He was the princess's personal guard, and if there was anyone who knew her itinerary, it was one of them. "Your Highness, it's not me. How could I do such a thing?" Beizer hurriedly explained. "I know it's not you," Anne said. Beizer breathed a sigh of relief, but then his heart sank again. He was fully in charge of the princess's safety, and even the guards were carefully selected by him. If there was a mole among them, he couldn't absolve himself from the blame. "Your Highness, I can't absolve myself from the blame. Don't worry, I will definitely find the mole," Beizer said resolutely. Chapter 9:18. The Mastermind? Anne and Beizer were both shocked. Who could it be? "Have you encountered many assassinations in the past?" Tang Zheng asked. "A long time ago, but not in the past few years." Anne recalled. "The enemy came prepared this time. It's definitely not simple. What's the benefit of killing you? You don't have any grudges against them. Her Highness is a member of the royal family. If anything happened to her, it would be a huge blow to the royal family and the entire country," Beizer said. "Who would have such a motive?" "This. I don't know." Anne waved her hand and said, "Don't guess blindly. Since they're carrying out a conspiracy here, they'll find some clues." Just as she finished speaking, Anne's phone rang. She picked it up and listened for a while. Her expression became strange. "What's wrong?" Tang Zheng asked curiously when she hung up. "There's news. We've captured another group of mercenaries. They were lying in ambush at several places we might pass by, waiting for an opportunity to strike. We only met one of them." Tang Zheng felt a chill run down his spine. This assassination was really costly. There were actually so many people lying in ambush. Thump. "Is there any news of the mastermind behind this?" Someone confessed. He said it was Alex who ordered it. And said angrily. It must be because he made a fool of himself last night and wanted to take revenge on us. Him? Tang Zheng was shocked. The person he wanted to take revenge on should be me. Why would he assassinate you? This. And hesitated and said, it's very simple. He must also hate me because I was helping you last night. Bezer was furious. This person is too sinister. He actually dared to do such a crazy thing to Her Highness. Although Tang Zheng didn't know Alex, he felt that this matter was a bit strange. He shook his head and said, I don't think it's that simple. I don't think he would assassinate you. He treated you like that, but you still speak up for him. You're too kind. And said. Tang Zheng was slightly stunned and forced a wry smile. No one has ever said that I'm benevolent. I'm not being merciful. I just feel that something is amiss. There were too many people in the hospital and too many secrets were involved, so it was not appropriate to say too much. Since the country's machinery was in operation, the other party's assassination was basically a failure. Not long after, the door of the operating room opened and the doctor walked out. His expression was a little strange and his forehead was covered in cold sweat. Anne's heart was in her mouth again. She quickly asked, Doctor, how is it? Your Highness, the patient suffered a gunshot wound, not a penetrating one. But we didn't find a bullet in her body. The doctor wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. He felt uneasy. He couldn't even deal with such a small injury in front of the princess. He felt a lot of pressure. He found it a few times, but he couldn't find the warhead, so he had no choice but to come out and ask for forgiveness. This was too strange. Anne immediately guessed what he was thinking and said, Doctor, I'm sorry. We forgot to tell you that the warhead has been taken out. Ah, you took it out? How could this be? I didn't see any traces of it being taken out. The doctor was shocked. The warhead seemed to have disappeared into thin air. There were no traces of surgery. He had never heard of or seen this kind of technology before. He was the one who took it out. The others also saw it. If you don't believe me, you can ask them. And didn't know why the doctor had such a big reaction. The others nodded. Sir, was it you who took out the bullet? How did you do it? The doctor looked at Tang Zheng and asked curiously. Tang Zheng guessed the doctor's thoughts. This kind of thing couldn't be explained by science. He didn't want to say it, so he said, Doctor, this is a small matter. The key is how is she? Yes, how is she? Is she in danger? And also asked. She's fine. We have already stitched up the wound. The next step is to recover. But she lost too much blood and is still unconscious. Everyone let out a sigh of relief. And said, you must use the best medicine to treat her. Do you understand? Your Highness, rest assured. This is our duty. Bezer saw this and hurriedly said, Princess, can we go back now? Since the wounded was fine, there was no point in staying. The most important thing was to find the mastermind and get justice. And comforted the little girl for a while and promised to visit often before leaving the hospital. Go find Alex. And ordered domineeringly as soon as she got in the car. Princess, His Majesty ordered us to return to the palace. Bezer said awkwardly. And said without hesitation, go find Alex. Looking at her determined face, Bezer couldn't do anything. If he disobeyed again, he was afraid that he would have to pack up and leave. Although Tang Zheng suspected that this was not Alex's doing, there was no harm in confronting him. He could get more direct information and make a better judgment. The motorcade stopped in front of an antique castle. The Rothschild family's headquarters was not in Sweden, but they had properties in various European countries. This castle was one of them. When Alex came to Sweden, he naturally stayed here. Usually, almost no one from the family lived here, but there were still housekeepers and servants to take care of the castle. When they saw the royal motorcade, the automatic door slowly opened and the housekeeper came forward to welcome them. and was familiar with the place and asked directly, "Where is Alex?" "Your Highness, the young master is in the castle." "This way please." The housekeeper led them into the castle and a majestic historical aura hit them in the face. Tang Jing narrowed his eyes. This ancient family's heritage was deep. It was not something that the nouveau riche of today could compare to. Dong dong dong. Alex walked down the stairs and saw Anne. His face lit up with joy, but when he saw Tang Jing, he immediately frowned and said coldly, "What are you doing here?" And walked in front of him and asked directly, "Alex, did you send someone to assassinate me and Tang Jing?" "What, assassinate?" Alex was shocked. "What assassinate? You're still pretending. I'll see how long you can pretend. You're clearly resentful of what happened last night. You actually used such a despicable method. If you have any ability, then use it openly. If you use this kind of scheme, I will look down on you even more." And reprimanded without any trace of politeness. Alex's face darkened and said, "I don't know what you're talking about. If I want to deal with this brat, I can defeat him openly. Why would I send an assassin? What a joke. Is that so? But someone has already confessed. You're the mastermind." Princess Anne said unrelentingly. "Someone confessed? Now you don't have any excuses. Humph, I've seen through you. Since you insist that I'm the mastermind, then I'm the mastermind. I hate him." Alex's face turned from black to red. He did not argue and personally admitted it. "You finally admitted it." And was like a victorious general. "I've already admitted it. What can you do to me?" Alex asked provocatively. "Bazer, capture him. I want to bring him back to face the law." And ordered. Bazer had been in the royal family for a long time and already knew of Alex's identity. He was shocked and hesitantly said, "Your Highness, calm down. This matter needs to be considered at length." Alex not only represented himself, but the family behind him was the most powerful. If they casually arrested someone like this, then the royal family would not be able to escape responsibility. "You're not listening to my orders?" And raised her eyebrows and the aura of a princess suddenly erupted. Bazer trembled with fear and did not know what to do. Tang Jing did not speak the entire time. He quietly observed Alex's reaction. Although he had personally admitted to this matter, Tang Jing gradually believed that his judgment was correct. He was afraid that he had been wronged in this matter. Since Alex was not the culprit, and the other party had specifically confessed that he was the mastermind, then this matter was worth thinking about. A net seemed to be growing larger and larger above their heads, wanting to pull them all in. "Wait!" Tang Jing called out. Bazer let out a sigh of relief. And looked at him with a frown and asked, "What's wrong? This matter is a bit strange." Tang Jing said in a low voice. And did not think much of it. What's strange about it? He already admitted it himself. Tang Jing shook his head and explained, Alex's admission just now was more like words spoken in a moment of anger. It can't be taken seriously. Don't tell me you can't take his words seriously? Anne asked in a huff. She was too concerned this time. She was truly angered by today's matter, so it was difficult for her to calm down. Alex looked at Tang Jing with an odd expression. How did he know that I was speaking in a moment of anger? At this time, shouldn't he be hitting me when I'm down? But does he think that I'll appreciate his kindness just because he said that? Don't even think about it. Alex sneered and said, What right do you have to say that I'm lying? What I said is absolutely true, but what can you do to me? You're just a nobody from Huaxia. How can you fight with me? Tang Jing shook his head inwardly. At this juncture, he was still so stubborn. He did not know if his brain was made of paste. There was a limit to jealousy. Immediately, Tang Jing became more and more certain of his thoughts. This matter definitely had nothing to do with him. It was just that someone was secretly using this point. Perhaps he also knew about Alex's bad temper. He was being schemed against but did not know it. He still wanted to jump into the pit. If it wasn't for him, who would it be for? Shut up. You're still trying to be brave at this time. Are you an idiot? Don't you know that someone is scheming against you? Tang Jing scolded in annoyance. Alex was stunned. He did not expect that Tang Jing would dare to be so impudent in his own territory. Twice in a row, he had suffered in front of Tang Jing. Although there were no other spectators this time, it made him even angrier. Before he could flip out, he was stunned to see that Tang Jing was also lecturing Anne. If you don't calm down when something happens, it will spoil things in the future. Do you understand? Your identity is too sensitive. People with ulterior motives will use it to make an issue out of it. As long as there's even the slightest mistake, it will be too late for you to regret it in the future. Do you understand? Chapter 9:19. Alex looked at Tang Jing as if he had seen a ghost. He actually dared to reprimand Princess Anne. He never dared to do such a thing. Moreover, Princess Anne was not someone he could casually reprimand. Alex was extremely indignant and angrily said, "What kind of attitude is this? Do you know who you are talking to?" Tang Jing speechlessly rolled his eyes. "Do you have a screw loose in your head? I am helping you. Can't you see?" Alex clearly did not appreciate it and continued to say, "Anne, you finally saw his true face. This kind of person is too hateful. Don't pay attention to him in the future." And turned a deaf ear and blankly stared at Tang Jing. This was the first time he had reprimanded her. Although she felt wronged, she strangely calmed down. Her clever brain finally returned to normal. After thinking it over, she connected the dots. One by one, suspicious points gradually surfaced. However, in the end, she did not completely dispel her suspicions towards Alex. After hearing Alex's words, she unhappily said, "Are you an idiot? Don't you know that Tang Jing is defending you?" Alex stifled a breath in his chest and almost spat out blood. He looked at Tang Jing with disdain and said, "Who wants him to defend me? Meddling in other people's business." Tang Jing did not want to continue talking nonsense with this idiot. He directly pulled and was about to leave. Alex angrily looked at the two holding hands and unwillingly shouted, "Hey, where are you guys going? I am afraid that if I stay with this idiot for too long, I will also become an idiot." Tang Jing said without any trace of politeness. "You're saying that I am an idiot?" Alex pointed at his nose in disbelief. Since he was young, people only praised him for being smart and quick-witted. No one had ever said that he was an idiot. He was so angry that smoke almost came out of his 7 orifices. "I'm saying that you are an idiot," Princess Anne said without any trace of politeness. "And you, why are you also like this?" Alex felt extremely wronged. Tang Jing shook his head. This Alex was a member of the Rothschild family, but he clearly could not be compared to the young Lord Louis of the Rockefeller family. Louis was resourceful and ruthless. Although this Alex had a bit of a playboy aura, in his bones he was just a jealous young master. Although Anne wanted to confront Alex, she could not refuse and hurriedly walked out of the castle. "Don't run. I'm going to talk to you guys. Who's the one with a brain?" Seeing the few people get in the car, Alex immediately called for the housekeeper to drive a car to drive to the car. Then, he personally drove the car and chased after them with a roar. Tang Jing and the others noticed the tail behind them from afar. Tang Jing helplessly shook his head. "This Alex is really devoted to you. When he saw me say a word about you, he couldn't wait to beat me up." And pursed her lips and said, "He's so annoying. How is he devoted? Why didn't I see it? He just kept following me. Hee, you don't know how lucky you are. With his identity, there should be many girls chasing after him, right?" Tang Jing joked with a smile. Anne's eyes lit up and said curiously, "Hey, you know about this too." "Who told you?" "I just guessed it. It's not that difficult, but he still chased after you. This means that he has deep feelings for you." and made a vomiting gesture and said, "Deep feelings? Forget it, I don't need it." After saying that, her eyes lit up and looked at Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng looked at her eyes, and laughed involuntarily. "What, do you really like me? Then wouldn't Alex hate me to death?" "I like you. What are you going to do?" and asked directly and aggressively. "This joke isn't funny at all." Tang Zheng didn't take the bait and said indifferently, "Who said it's a joke? I'm serious." And stared at him without blinking, incomparably serious. Tang Zheng didn't want to continue this topic. He really didn't have any thoughts about Anne, even though she was a princess and had a noble status. If an ordinary person had such an honor, they would definitely be flattered and feel that their ancestral graves were emitting smoke. Tang Zheng didn't feel it at all and even felt that it was a bit troublesome. He waved his hand and changed the topic. "Let's talk about the problem at hand first." Bezer glanced at the two from the rearview mirror and was shocked. The princess took the initiative to express her love, but Tang Zheng changed the topic. This, he really couldn't find the words to describe it. And pursed her lips and said faintly, "Coward." She had always had a hazy good impression of Tang Zheng, but back in Huaxia, Tang Zheng had other women and the two rarely had the chance to be alone. This good impression had always been brewing in the dark. Now that the two had many opportunities to be alone, her good impression of him erupted like a volcano. She couldn't help but take the initiative to express her feelings. She was a bit disappointed that Tang Zheng didn't take the bait, but she didn't despair. She immediately recovered and said, "Although I still don't believe that Alex is innocent, since you insist on this point, then I have nothing to say. We've lost the lead. What do we do now?" Tang Zheng muttered to himself for a while and said, "We haven't completely lost the lead. Since the mastermind behind the scenes wants us to have a conflict with Alex, then this will definitely be beneficial to him. As for what the benefit is, I don't know for now. But His Majesty is far-sighted. Perhaps he will find something." "Will father know?" and asked suspiciously. Tang Zheng smiled faintly. The king seemed harmless, but after all, he was someone who had been at the peak of power for most of his life. Naturally, his depth of vision was not something that ordinary people could compare to. The motorcade returned to the palace. Alex's sports car also followed. He was a frequent guest of the palace and wasn't stopped. "Anne, wait for me." Alex was out of breath as he chased after her. "Why are you following me again?" Anne asked helplessly. Alex glared fiercely at Tang Zheng and said, "I'm afraid that he will hurt you, so of course I'm here to protect you." Tang Zheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was too lazy to waste his breath arguing with this brainless fellow. The group walked into the palace and found that Mu Hongyan was in a daze with a worried expression. Tang Zheng quickly walked over. When Alex saw this scene, he really wanted to bring up the old matter and talk about what he saw last night. But when he saw that and didn't seem to care at all, he swallowed the words back down. After all, he wasn't really an idiot. He still knew how to weigh the pros and cons. If he brought up the old matter, he was afraid that it would make him even more unhappy. Then he would be directly kicked out of the palace. But, he stared at Tang Zheng and Mu Hongyan without blinking, as if he wanted to find any clues about the two of them. "Big Sister Mu, what happened? Why are you standing here in a daze?" Hearing Tang Zheng's voice, Mu Hongyan seemed to wake up from a dream. "Ah, you're back." After hesitating for a moment, she said, "There was a little problem. Today, Mr. Bruce and I went to do something that didn't go well." "En?" Tang Zheng raised his eyebrows. Didn't His Majesty vow that everything was ready and that he only needed to take over the relevant industries? How could there be a problem? Let's go to the room to talk. There were many people around and Alex was a brainless person. Of course, he couldn't go into detail here. "Young Master Tang, His Majesty invites you." Bruce walked over and interrupted the two's conversation as he courteously invited them. "Your Highness, His Majesty also wants you to go with him." Tang Zheng nodded and said, "Big Sister Mu, you've been tired all day. Go back to your room and rest first. I'll talk to you in detail later. He knew that the king summoned him to talk about the assassination. Time was tight, so he decided to go see the king first. Seeing that Tang Zheng and were about to leave, Alex hurriedly called out, "I'll go with you." Bruce stopped him with a smile and said, "Young Master Alex, His Majesty only invited young Master Tang and Her Highness the Princess. No one else is allowed to disturb them. I'm worried that Tang Zheng will harm Anne." Alex refuted with conviction. Bruce was still smiling and his expression didn't change in the slightest as he said, "Young Master Alex doesn't need to worry about this. This is the Imperial Palace. No one can do bad things to Princess Anne here." Although Alex was extremely anxious, he couldn't do anything about it. He could only keep saying, "Tang Zheng doesn't have good intentions. You must be on guard against him." "You don't need to worry about this," Bruce politely replied, but in his heart he was saying that someone had already confessed that you were the real culprit behind the scenes. "You still dared to come here. We should be careful of you." Bruce quietly gave a meaningful glance to the guards around him. Alex had already been quietly surrounded. But he was completely unaware. He just kept looking at Tang Zheng and Anne's backs. He was extremely anxious. Tang Zheng and saw the king. The king's face was dark, but when he saw Anne, he revealed a trace of gentleness. "Anne, it's good to see that you're okay." Anne hugged the king and said, "Father, I almost couldn't see you again. Fortunately, Tang Zheng saved me. You should thank him for this. But, you are also responsible for today's matter. Why did you sneak out?" The king was not so easily fooled. He immediately got to the point. And hugged the king's arm and acted like a spoiled child. "With so many people following us, how can we appreciate the real beauty? Tang Zheng came from afar, so we must let him see the real face of our country. This is the hospitality that you have always taught me." Looking at the eloquent Anne, the king shook his head and said, "I can't win against you, but this is really too dangerous. Don't worry. As long as Tang Zheng is here, no one can hurt me." Anne said solemnly. The king did not comment and said to Tang Zheng, "You saved Anne again. I don't know how to thank you. Annie is my friend, so this is what I should do." Tang Zheng, on the other hand, did not take the credit for himself as he lightly said. The king could not help but secretly praise, but his face gradually became serious. "You know the details. I heard that you went to confront Alex." Yes, Alex admitted that he did it. But Tang Zheng thought that I was wrong and said that it was not Alex who did it. And said with grievance. Chapter 920. The king was very surprised, because Tang Zheng's judgment was the same as his. But his judgment was based on his understanding of the situation in Europe. Tang Zheng was a foreign monk, so how could his judgment be so accurate? He looked at Tang Zheng curiously and asked, "Why do you think so?" Tang Zheng shrugged and told him his thoughts. The more the king listened, the brighter his eyes became. In the end, he praised from the bottom of his heart, "Amazing, you hit the nail on the head." And looked at Tang Zheng in surprise and said, "What's wrong with your brain? Why didn't I think of it? You thought of so many things." Tang Zheng is calm in the face of trouble. If he were like you and questioned them without thinking about anything, he would have fallen into the enemy's trap, the king said earnestly. If Tang Zheng did not stop them, with Anne's temper, she would definitely have a direct conflict with Alex. That would make things worse and become a mess. This was what the mastermind wanted to see. The king would definitely become enemies with the Rothschild family, which would not be a good thing for the royal family or even the entire country. The Rothschild family played a vital role in Europe's economy. If they rashly offended the Rothschild family, Sweden would definitely suffer a heavy blow. Not greater than as the king of a country, he would definitely not take such a risk. Hearing this, Anne lowered her head in shame and said, "I was just angry. Besides, Alex admitted it himself, so I didn't think too much about it." It's not like you don't know Alex's temper. Can you believe everything he says? Anne pursed her lips and did not say anything more. Since Alex is not the mastermind, who could it be? Tang Jing asked. Hearing this, Annie also looked at her father curiously. The king pondered for a moment and said, I don't know yet. If your majesty and the Rothschild family become enemies, who will benefit the most? Tang Jing changed the question. It's hard to say because there are too many people who will benefit. Oh, too much? Yes, apart from my country, everyone else will benefit. Tang Jing was slightly taken aback. The range was too large, and it was really difficult to determine. Where are the mercenaries who confessed? I'll interrogate him. Since the other party was not telling the truth, Tang Jing was prepared to use the soul-searching technique. The king had a difficult expression on his face as he said, they're already dead. All the captured mercenaries are dead. Their brains were installed with miniature bombs that were remotely detonated by someone. Another bomb. Tang Jing was shocked. The mastermind behind this was not an ordinary kind of ferocious person. He actually used this kind of method to control these mercenaries. The culprit didn't want them to continue investigating. Don't worry, I have already sent a large number of professionals to investigate this matter. There will definitely be a day when the truth will come to light. The king was not discouraged and said confidently. All right, that's the only way. And Alex is also here. Don't be so cold to him. Explain the misunderstanding clearly. In addition, I will contact his family and explain the stakes of this matter. They will definitely not stand idly by. The king warned. Tang Jing and retreated. From afar, they saw Alex surrounded by the crowd. Disperse. Although Anne was unwilling, she did not want the conflict to escalate. She dismissed the crowd. And, Tang Jing didn't do anything to you, right? Alex did not care that he was surrounded by so many people. He only cared about Anne's safety. It's none of your business. There's nothing else for you to do here. You can go back by yourself. Anne unhappily gave the order to leave. And, there are still some misunderstandings between the two of us. I'll treat you to dinner as an apology, okay? Although Alex was furious yesterday, at this moment, his anger was gradually subsiding. Moreover, he already knew that Anne was attacked by an assassin. He was even more reluctant to be angry with her. And did not appreciate it and directly refused. Tang Jing turned around and left. He wanted to find Mu Hongyan and ask her what had happened. Tang Jing, where are you going? And turned around and followed. I'm going back to my room to rest. Tang Jing did not want her to follow and said directly. And looked at him and stopped. She could not follow him back to his room. If she did, Alex would probably go crazy on the spot. Tang Jing knocked on Mu Hongyan's door. Mu Hongyan's charming face appeared from behind the door. Sister Mu, I'm here. Tang Jing closed the door with a smile on his face. Are you okay today? I heard that you were attacked by an assassin. Mu Hongyan's hand groped him a few times and asked with concern. You'll know if you check it out. Tang Jing said with an evil smile. You're not serious again. Mu Hongyan quickly retracted her hand and glared at him. Let's talk about serious business. Okay, let's talk about serious business. Tang Jing said while lying on the wide and soft bed with his hands behind his head. Let's talk about serious business. Why are you lying on the bed? Who said that lying on the bed can't talk about serious business? After experiencing so many things today, I'm tired and want to lie down for a while. Tang Jing said lazily. Mu Hongyan was helpless. Since the relationship between the two changed, Tang Jing became more and more unscrupulous in front of her. But she did not dislike it. If it was someone else, she would have kicked them out of bed. Sister Mu, come and lie down. Let's talk slowly. Tang Jing looked at her wearing a small suit, a tight skirt, and black stockings. She stood in front of him and could not help but move his index finger. He patted the position next to him and said, "A mature woman had another kind of charm that was irresistible. Every frown, every smile, and every occasional small action could evoke the flames in the bottom of one's heart. Without a doubt, Mu Hongyan was such a woman. Otherwise, Long Tingyu would not have disregarded human relations and had improper thoughts about his sister-in-law." Mu Hongyan hesitated for a moment, but still sat on the edge of the bed obediently. Tang Jing hugged her and lay on the bed together. "Ah, don't be like this. It's not dark yet." Mu Hongyan exclaimed in a low voice. "I'm not doing anything." Tang Jing laughed evilly. At this time, Tian Chanzi had not returned, so even if he did something, no one would notice. However, he was not that thirsty after all. He suppressed the flames in his heart and cleverly put a hand under her clothes. "Don't." Mu Hongyan's entire body went limp and turned into a pile of mud. She did not know why she was so sensitive when facing Tang Jing. Perhaps it had something to do with the difference in their identities. She exhaled like orchids and weakly stopped him. "Don't move." "Ah, listen to me." Tang Jing's hand found its destination, so he did not push it further. He said, "I'm listening." "Go ahead." Mu Hongyan was helpless and could only restrain her restless heart. She weakly said, "When Bruce and I went to take over the related industries today, we encountered a big problem. Someone had taken action before us and many of the industries were taken over by someone else." "What?" Tang Jing was shocked. He could not help but pinch his hand hard. Mu Hongyan's entire body trembled and she cried out. Her face was so red that it was about to drip water. "I'm sorry, I hurt you." Tang Jing quickly apologized. It's okay." Mu Hongyan wished she could find a hole to crawl into. That kind of slight pain made her feel a strange kind of stimulation. Tang Jing's face became serious and said, "You said that those industries were taken by someone else?" But it's only a part of them. We still took over a part of them. After all, Rockefeller's industries are too big." Mu Hongyan took a deep breath and suppressed the strange feeling in her heart. What did Bruce say? He also found it very strange. Because some time ago, they specially sorted out these industries. At that time, there was no movement. Who would have thought that in just a few days, they would change owners? Moreover, it was under their eyes without a sound. This is very strange. Mu Hongyan slightly wrinkled her brows. She gradually adapted to Tang Jing's restless hands and immersed herself in business. Tang Jing didn't know much about business. When he was discussing with the king and several other royal families in Europe, they provided a set of strategies that were said to be very professional. As long as Nicholas died and Rockefeller declined, they could use that strategy to take over Rockefeller's industries. Even if the Atlantic Empire tried to stop them, it would not be of much use. Later, Mu Hongyan made a special trip to Sweden and talked with them for a long time. With a professional view, she approved of their method. In fact, Rockefeller's industries were too many and spread across many countries around the world. This method was very complicated. It required a very strong foundation to succeed. The Swedish royal family could barely do this with their own strength, but they did not expect that the cooked duck would fly away. Someone must have stirred up trouble and intercepted it. Can you find out who played a role in it? Mu Hongyan shook her head. I can't find out at the moment. Since the other party dared to do it, they must be careful. It's not easy to find out immediately. This doesn't look like an assassination. Although I don't understand business, after all, this kind of operation is very complicated. It's easier to leave clues. I don't believe that they didn't leave any traces. In addition, in the end, it will be clear at a glance whose hands those industries will fall into. Whoever benefits will naturally be the one stirring up trouble. Tang Jing thought for a while and analyzed in an orderly manner. Looking at him frowning and analyzing in an orderly manner, Mu Hongyan could not help but be stunned. That kind of strong self-confidence made her heart flutter. Men were most charming when they were serious. There was no doubt that Tang Zheng was very charming at this moment. This kind of temperament that was in control of the whole situation was very moving. Seeing that Mu Hongyan did not respond for a long time, Tang Zheng looked down and found that she was lying in his arms, looking up at him in a daze. "What are you looking at?" "Nothing." Mu Hongyan panicked. She was not a little girl. Why was she so infatuated? She was so embarrassed and quickly lowered her head. That shy look made Tang Zheng's head hot. He subconsciously hugged her, turned over, pressed her on top of him, and kissed her. Chapter 921. The two bodies tossed and turned on the bed, rolling in the waves. The sunset outside the window shone down on the waves, making them look like red waves. Deliberately suppressed cries echoed in the room, sometimes high and sometimes low, like the most moving song of a lark. In the waves, occasionally a piece of tender lotus-like skin would be revealed, captivating the soul. The battle was very intense, evenly matched. In the end, with a loud cry, everything returned to normal. Tang Zheng gasped for breath, hugging the naked Mu Hongyan as he laid on the bed. Mu Hongyan was like a docile kitten lying on his broad chest, her face flushed red and her eyes filled with amorous feelings. Her breath was like orchids, her heart unable to calm down for a long time. She deeply stared at him, the corners of her mouth rising into a faint satisfied smile. Her body was like the earth that had been dry for a long time, once again glowing with vitality. Her entire person was glowing. Compared to before, there was a trace of a woman's unique charm. Tang Zheng was satisfied, holding her waist, his large hand gently sliding over her waist. "You really are bad." Mu Hongyan did not think that she would really fall like this. All kinds of feelings welled up in her heart. "Hee, big sister Mu seems to like my naughtiness." Tang Zheng's mouth slightly rose, as he said with an evil smile. "Is proportional to, you're not allowed to say it." Mu Hongyan quickly buried her head in his chest. Tang Zheng smiled and changed the topic, saying, "Big sister Mu, last time you fell into the hands of the enemy, it was my fault, so I am going to teach you a cultivation method, so you have the strength to protect yourself." "Really?" Mu Hongyan raised her head in surprise. She had been thinking about this problem, but she was too embarrassed to take the initiative to ask. "Of course, you are now my woman. How could I bear to let you suffer the slightest harm?" "Who is your woman?" "You're not ashamed." "I did not agree," Mu Hongyan said against her heart. "Is that so? Then let's try again, see if you are my woman." Tang Zheng flipped onto the horse. Mu Hongyan cried out and quickly begged for mercy. "I surrender." "Then are you my woman?" Tang Zheng stared straight at her and asked aggressively. Mu Hongyan's face was like a peach blossom. She lightly bit her teeth and said, "You only know how to bully me." Seeing that Tang Zheng was about to make a move again, she quickly said, "Yes, I am." Tang Zheng laughed in satisfaction and hugged her tightly in his arms, saying, "If you are my woman, then be obedient. I will now teach you the cultivation method, listen carefully." Mu Hongyan hurriedly nodded. A sweet feeling welled up in her heart as she quietly listened to Tang Zheng's words. What Tang Zheng taught her was a set of wondrous incantations. This set of techniques was obtained from the Langya Pavilion and was very suitable for women to cultivate. "Elder sister Mu, you started late, so I don't plan to let you cultivate step by step. Instead, I'll directly help you change your tendons and cleanse your marrow to help you. This process may be a little painful, so bear with it." Mu Hongyan firmly nodded her head. "Come, I'm not afraid." Her character was very tenacious. All these years, she had endured many grievances and pain, so how could she be afraid? This was something that Tang Zheng had no choice but to do. She was old and had already passed the best time to cultivate. Starting from the beginning would be too slow. Tang Zheng wanted her to have the ability to protect herself. Of course, he would not let her cultivate step by step. Thus, he simply changed her tendons and cleansed her marrow. However, he was not as powerful as the 100 Change Star Lord. Back then, he had directly raised Junko from the early Xiantian stage to the 9th grade Xiantian stage. The two sat down cross-legged facing each other. At first, Mu Hongyan was a little embarrassed. However, seeing that Tang Jing did not have any distracting thoughts in his eyes, she gradually abandoned all distracting thoughts and focused her mind. The two's hands were pressed against each other. Tang Jing's innate qi entered her body little by little and wandered through her limbs and bones. The impurities in her body were expelled from her pores by the innate qi. Her forehead was covered in cold sweat. She clenched her teeth but did not make a sound. This process was not simple. To be honest, it was a little painful. Tang Jing looked at her suffering appearance. Although his heart ached, he did not soften. This was for her own good. She had to suffer the most in order to rise above others. The sun had already set and night had fallen. The work of changing tendons and marrow had just been completed. Mu Hongyan opened her eyes. Before she had time to feel the condition of her body, she cried out in alarm, "What is this smell? Why is it a little smelly?" After saying this, she looked down and found that her body was sticky. She cried out in alarm, "What happened to me?" Tang Jing looked at her with a smile and said, "Sister Mu, don't worry. This is to remove the impurities in your body. You'll be fine after taking a bath." "Then I'll go take a bath." Most women loved cleanliness. Mu Hongyan was even more so. She immediately jumped off the bed. She was surprised to find that her body seemed to be much lighter. Many of the occupational diseases from her previous work also disappeared without a trace. "I'll take a bath with you." Tang Jing hurriedly chased after her. Not long after, other sounds came from the splashing water. After a long time, Mu Hongyan walked out with a face like a peach blossom. Her face was glowing and her skin was even fairer. It was like the highest grade jade. Her hand could not help but gently stroke her skin. It was as smooth as silk. She could not hide the surprise in her eyes and said, "Is this the effect of changing tendons and marrow? I feel like I'm several years younger." "Sister Mu, you were originally very young. I'm already old." "How are you old?" "If you go out, people will definitely ask you if you're still in university." Mu Hongyan glared at him but could not hide the smile on her face. "You only know how to make people happy." "Ah, it's already dark. Let's go out." She was afraid that other people would find out about the two of them. She did not want to give herself away in front of others. Tang Jing smiled as he watched her put on her clothes in a hurry and said, "Let me help you put it on." "I don't want you to help me. The more you help, the more trouble you'll cause. You'll make it impossible for me to put on my clothes properly." Mu Hongyan said bitterly, "Hurry up and put it on too. Later when you go out quietly, don't let others find out. Do you hear me? Or else." "Or else what?" "Or else, don't even think about going to bed next time." Tang Jing laughed and did not tease her anymore. After putting on his clothes, the two of them had a deep French kiss before he left without anyone noticing. He had just returned to his room for a while when there was a knock on the door. And was standing outside the door. "Where did you go just now?" "No one answered when I knocked on the door." Tang Jing's expression did not change as he said, "I was in the room. I fell asleep just now, so I didn't hear anything. I'm here to invite you for a meal." And did not think much of it and said casually, "I'll call Big Sister Mu." When she knocked on Mu Hongyan's door and saw her, she was slightly stunned and exclaimed, "Wow, Big Sister Mu, you're so beautiful today." Mu Hongyan felt a little guilty as she touched her face and glanced at Tang Jing and said, "I don't think so. I didn't suddenly become younger. You just became younger." "Oh, no, you were originally very young. I'm saying that your skin is too good. It's so tender and white with a hint of rosy. When you came back just now, I saw that you were still very tired. How did you suddenly become so radiant? Teach me the trick. Did you use some magical skincare products? I want to try it too." And said in surprise. Beauty had an irresistible allure to women. Even the high and mighty princess could not remain calm. Mu Hongyan bitterly smiled and glanced at Tang Zheng, saying in her heart that if you want to try this method of mine, then go find him. It's nothing. It's just ordinary skincare products. Maybe it's because your country's climate is too good that I have such a big change. Mu Hongyan's explanation was far-fetched. Is that so? How come I don't feel it? Could it be that I've lived for too long, so I'm slow and can't feel it? Anne touched her face and muttered to herself in puzzlement. Anne, let's go eat. Don't let them wait too long. Tang Zheng hurriedly came to the rescue to avoid delving too deeply into this issue and revealing a flaw. Anne held on to Mu Hongyan's hand and warmly said, Big Sister Mu, I'll ask you for guidance in a while. Don't hide anything. Mu Hongyan awkwardly agreed and helplessly glared at Tang Zheng. This is all your fault. Tang Zheng's mouth hooked up in a smile and pretended not to see it. When he arrived at the dining hall, he found that Tian Chanzi was already waiting there. Tian Chanzi looked at Tang Zheng with a meaningful smile. Tang Zheng's heart jumped. Could it be that he just discovered something? I heard that you experienced a lot of things today. Are you very tired? Tian Chanzi asked with a smile. There was clearly a hidden meaning in his words. Tang Zheng pretended not to hear it, but since he knew, then it didn't matter. How can I be as leisurely as you? I don't even know where you ran off to meet with someone. Tang Zheng lightly said. Slander. The king and queen invited everyone to sit down and eat. After the meal, Tian Chanzi pulled Tang Zheng, winked and said in a low voice, You brat, you did bad things when I wasn't here. You are the one who is slandering. Tang Zheng seriously said. Believe it or not, I'll expose you. Expose me. Tang Zheng shrugged. Tian Chanzi curled his lips and said, You brat, your wings are really strong. I can't threaten you. Okay, let's talk about business. You came to Sweden for the Rockefeller industry, and I came for the crystal. We should find the whereabouts of the crystal. Why don't you ask His Majesty? I said you brat are stupid, but you don't believe me. If I ask him directly, will he admit it? Tian Chanzi looked at him with a look of disdain. Since you know this as well, what can you do? Can't you find it yourself? Do you really think I went to meet someone during the day? Am I like you? Doing bad things during the day. Tang Zheng was thick-skinned, and deliberately pretended not to understand, and asked, What did you find during the day? Of course I found something. According to my investigation, the crystal is hidden in the palace. The energy contained in the crystal is very powerful. It is not easy to completely hide its traces, especially for a master like me. Don't blow your own trumpet. Tian Chanzi glared at Tang Zheng and continued to say, I have narrowed down the scope. The crystal is under the palace, but I don't know where the entrance is. So tonight we have to sneak in when no one is paying attention, and take out the crystal without anyone noticing. Oh, you want to steal something from your disciple's house. Who said it was stealing? It was just borrowing. Those things are useless to them. Making the best use of them will not waste them. Tian Chanzi argued, You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.